Welcome to the Sherdog Radio Network preview for UFC 319 Duplessis versus Chimaev. I'm your host, Ben Duffy of Sherdog.com. With me, as usual, is Keith Shillan, the executive producer of the Sherdog Radio Network. Keith, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good, brother. Got a big card. How you doing?
I'm doing well myself. We got a big card. We're recording a little earlier than usual on Sunday night because you got places to be in the morning. Between that and this being a 13 or 14 fight card, we got plenty to go into. So I was going to bypass some of the usual warm-up chit-chat and jump right in with a big question for you. Now, I'm not asking you who you think is going to win. We'll get to that when we get to it. My question for you is, does Khamzat Chimaev deserve to be fighting for the title on Saturday?
Somewhat. And what I mean by that is, like, it wasn't gifted to him. I mean, he basically broke Robert's jaw, but the loss hasn't settled too well. You know, I always mix them up. Derrida just beat Whitaker. Other guys have wins over Whitaker. There's guys like the Ritter and Imavov and obviously Hernandez after yesterday, who's kind of been on even deeper runs of the division. But I get it. Like, he's the star. He's the big name. He talks a big game. He's exciting. So I don't hate him getting it. And in him winning would be fantastic for the division. Well, somewhat. If he fights often, it would be.
Yes. And again, we'll get to that in more detail when we get to it. But for somebody who made the splash he did by, fighting every week for a little while there during that first year of COVID, it's gotten quieter since then. His bad headlines have stacked up alongside his good ones. Obviously, I ask you the mythical deserve question because it's not necessarily the question the UFC is asking in making these matchups. When we do our fantasy matchmaking on the recaps for these shows, you'll usually phrase it in the form of, if you're the UFC, who do you have this guy fight next, or who do you have fight for the title next? And usually both of us, but especially you, are approaching it from what do I want most as the promoter if I'm running the UFC? And by that standard, yeah, you're doing whatever you can to push Chimaev forward.
Yeah. I think another thing is, if, say, Duplessis was fighting Anthony Hernandez or Imavov, something like that, there would still be people out there saying, oh, well, these aren't the best middleweights in the world. Chimaev is. No, obviously, there's always going to be people saying that about every division. There's someone saying that at welterweight. There's someone saying that at lightweight. But a large majority is saying it about Chimaev. So I think that settles too, like, who's the best middleweight in the world. I should say majority, but I mean, so there's a much bigger camp is saying it about Chimaev than they're saying it about Imavov or whoever.
Yeah, completely agreed on that one. South of that, we have a pretty full fight card. What's your general take on this one? Give me your letter grade for this on paper.
Yeah, there's some really fun matchups. I didn't really look at the betting lines, but I'm sure to me, this looks like it's a lot evenly matched out. I don't think there's a lot of like, oh my God, this person's going to murder this guy. So that always is a plus for me. Like, a lot of the fights, I'm like, oh, I could go this way, I could go that way. So I like that. I'm going to go a B+. I'm so intrigued by the main event that it really holds a lot of weight. There's some things lacking. There isn't a second title fight. When you think about title pictures right now, I mean, Murphy, I guess maybe MVP if he wins, are in the kind of immediate title picture, or one or two wins away. Nobody else really is. So it's a deep card, but it's not as top heavy as other cards. So I'll go I'm pretty happy though. B+.
Yeah, this one to me is glaringly missing a co-main event. You won't find a person more reluctant to jump off the Aaron Pico bandwagon than me, but shoving him in here on short notice in his debut, when he was never probably even the third best featherweight in Bellator, against an undefeated guy is a rough,
yeah. It's a big ask.
It is.
if he wins, what a position he's in now. He takes it on defeated Laurent Murphy.
If he dusts Laurent Murphy and says the right thing on the mic, he might skip a lot of grumpy people in that line.
Yeah.
And honestly, how happy would Dana White be if somebody got rid of Laurent Murphy for him?
Oh yeah, Laurent Murphy is, and it's funny because he's a technical kickboxer. He's not the most exciting guy, but he's not a snoozer either.
No,
he reminds me of, it's kind of his countryman on his rise, kind of a Leon Edwards.
Oh, 100%.
And I'm not just going like, oh, black Englishman. That's the easy way to go. But it's like this style.
Yeah, nobody's comparing him to Michael Page.
Yeah,
or
exactly.
Christian Leroy Duncan. Like,
yeah, there you go. Yeah, exactly.
No, you take one fight on this card, wrap both fighters in bubble wrap, and guarantee that they make it through the door. Aside from the main event, which fight are you saving?
I'm gonna go really deep. I'm gonna go Bryan Battle. This fight. Battle in Ruziboev. I think that's a really.
Hey, if you wrap them in bubble wrap, and that's kind of like the old wrestling run in the garbage bags trick, and it actually pulls them down from 185 to 170 pounds where they both belong, I'm completely on board with you.
You run. We used to run in the swim room where like people were swimming laps. The heat would come up, and we'd run the stairs in the trash bags.
Good grief. I'm so glad I always wrestled above my weight in high school. Oh, you made, like, obviously, if you're watching this, you know that one of our running things is Keith does not pay attention to the betting odds in advance. It used to be just I don't think you really cared about it, but it's become more of a pointed thing.
Now. Yeah,
it's become a thing. But Keith's instincts for this are better than he lets on, because we just got here from UFC Vegas 109, which I told you was one of the most lopsided cards in UFC history on the books.
Yeah.
Before they added that last second matchup on, there was only one fight on the whole card that was less than like a minus 250 favorite. This one is the opposite. There's only one minus 300 favorite on the whole card. Most of this is very closely matched, as Keith seemed to sense. You know, I'll give you a guess. Who is the biggest favorite on UFC 319?
I knew you were going to ask me that after you said that, so I'm looking at the list.
If you get it in the first three guesses, I'll be very impressed.
I'm going to give you a guess. I said, now I'm going to go a little deeper now just because you gave me a little hint. Why any better with trust in her? I want to say the biggest favorite is Lupita Godinez.
It is not.
Okay. I don't know. Prates?
The biggest favorite on the card is Chase Hooper.
Oh.
Minus 300.
Well, look at what a talk. Oh, talk about a prodigal son.
Seriously, I can't. I'm weirdly excited to talk about Chase Hooper versus Alexander Hernandez, but we have 3 or 4 fights to get to before we get there. Any
just skip those. Let's just skip those. Go right from there.
Outstanding. I feel like I know more about those guys than some of these others. You ready to jump into this?
Yep.
First fight we're going to look at UFC 319 is the TUF 33 men's flyweight final between Idiris Alibi and Joseph Morales. Alibi, and we're going to have to get used to that because I look at his name and I keep wanting to say Idris Alibi, but it is Idiris Alibi, 25-year-old from Kazakhstan.
Wasn't that String a Bell on The Wire?
Yeah. That'd be amazing. Anyway,
I still much rather talk about that than this fight. But
good grief, yeah. We could talk about Michael B. Jordan's like transition from like a bantamweight to the heavyweight he is now. Over the last 15, 20 years. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. That's Chase Hooper for you.
Yeah. Alibi, 25-year-old from Kazakhstan. Perfect 10-0 as a professional. You'll get a couple different numbers out there. I know they'll probably claim he's 12-0 when he walks into the cage. I'll leave that to Sherdog editor and Fight Finder administrator Jay Petrie to solve, but he's 10-0. He's fought his way through TUF 33, Team Sonnen versus Team Cormier. He was the first finalist, kind of waiting to see who the other one was going to be. it's going to be Morales. And if he's a familiar name to you, it is because he is on his second trip to the Octagon. 30-year-old Californian, 12-2 overall. He's 1-2 in the UFC. He was in the UFC from 2017 to 2018. He was released on back-to-back losses. Those are still the only losses of his career. He went back to California and won 3 fights, 2 of them on like the Cage Warriors San Diego cards. But before joining Tough, he had not fought at all in 2 full years. Had been just kind of a team alpha male gym rat for a couple of years. He's still just 30 years old. He steps in the cage here. There are still no official odds on this one. I have the feeling Alibi is going to come in as the favorite, but I really have no idea yet. Based on the limited amount of tape, I am kind of excited about Idiris Alibi. I saw a comment, I think it was on one of his fights on Instagram. Somebody in the comments called him flyweight Shavkat Rakhmonov. I think that might be overstating it a little bit, but talking about an aggressive wrestler and grappler who has big surprising power and explosion, I can see a little bit of that. He stood out on Tough because he notched a gnarly flying knee knockout. But if you look at his actual tape, a lot more of what he does is just kind of crowd, press, wrestle. Yeah, he's going to be a good addition to the UFC. I have the feeling that both these guys are going to end up getting contracts regardless of who wins. It's, we're to the age where the UFC is going to probably sign 80 fighters a year out of Dana White's Contender Series. I guarantee everybody from the Tough finale is going to make it. Be interesting to see how he does against Morales. Morales definitely has a team alpha male bred game. You see it all over him. He's a decent wrestler, works the front headlock into both his offensive and defensive grappling. Decent boxer with not a ton of power. Looking back at his original UFC run, it hasn't aged that badly. He won a performance bonus in his debut, looked sensational, just hauling Roberto Sanchez down, throttling him in like 3 minutes, got dusted by Davis and Figueiredo, but we didn't understand in 2018 how many people Davis and Figueiredo was going to wreck. And then his last fight in the UFC against Eric Shelton it was very competitive. It went down as a split decision. I thought he rightfully lost, but he didn't seem out of his depth in the UFC. But that was right around the time when they were flushing that division. If not for the timing, I think he would have been in the UFC this whole time, probably. He's a guy that, as far as I can tell, had and has the talent to stick around. But, he was let go the same time Brandon Moreno was. So they were clearly doing a house cleaning in 2018. Here, I see Alibi as a guy with a lot more upside. He's going to be a little bit bigger. He's a much better athlete. He's substantially younger. I think he's at least as good at Morales at the things they're both good at. Like if this turns into just a frantic flyweight scramble fest, I think Alibi is going to be a step ahead in those transitions. And for whatever time they spend on the feet, Morales is in a lot more immediate danger. Alibi he's more explosive. He hits harder. He throws a wider variety of strikes. I think Alibi gets finish here. I'm going to say it's a submission in the second round, but I could see him getting there by dinging Morales up on the feet quite a few times.
So I found out about this fight about an hour ago, as I checked the lineup, and I was like, "Oh shit, here's 2 guys. I don't know who they are," and I completely forgot about Joseph Morales. So that's not really a good sign. And he fought twice in the UFC, and I'm sitting there and I'm like, why the hell would the UFC add these 2 guys last minute to this card? I'm like, and I'm sitting there and I go, oh, Morales must be from like Chicago. And they added a local guy. Then I look and he's like, no, he's from California. And I'm like, well, there's trains in California, but he's originally from Chicago. Like, nope, he's not. And I'm like, the other guy's from Kazakhstan. I'm like, is there a big Kazakhstan community in Chicago? Like, I'm like, what is going on here? I couldn't figure out. And then Ben, you tell me that this is a tough finale, and I was like, oh, shows you how often. I haven't watched Tough in so long. I haven't watched a single second. It's probably been, but let me guess. Let me tell you what I missed. Let me guess. They meet their coaches. They run to the house. They all run in separate rooms. Oh, I'm getting the top bunk, and they talk about how great it is. Some guy jumps in the pool. They do a toast together about, hey, we're all gonna be nice and friendly. And then halfway through, they fight with each other, get in each other's face. Some guy's like, oh, back up, buddy. Like, we'll do it in the cage. And then some guy gets knocked out after he tells a sad story and how he's gonna win it for his children, and then he loses anyways. And then he says, but this won't be the last you heard of me. As he's tearing up, I'll come back even better. How close am I, Ben?
Let me beg again, bro. Like, just the picture you conjure up of a bunch of men's flyweights saying "hold me back" is just killing me right now.
Yeah, dude, it's honestly.
I'll hand him this. I mean, I ended up watching more of Tough 33 than I expected to today, just kind of picking through fights. At least they didn't even pretend that DC and Sonnen hated each other. Like, it really feels like two old college buddies, like taking their kids to the park and letting them run around together on the swing sets and shit. Like, is what that whole season feels like.
I will say this. The way I feel about Tough, like I've seen it already, is exactly how I feel about every single Marvel movie. And I will never understand the sensation of like, oh, let me guess. Some new bad guy that nobody ever heard of shows up, and he's tougher than anybody who's ever lived. And they meet up about, it's a 2.5 hour movie, about an hour in. They meet up the first time with the bad guy. The bad guy beats the shit out of the superhero. And at the end, the superhero wins. All right, next. Insert different superhero, insert different bad guy. Do it all over again. And then I got to wait for the credits to see Samuel L. Jackson do something that's not cool at all. But that was the big mystery for the big story.
The Fantastic Four, now in theaters.
Yeah, like whatever. Anyways, so we're going to talk about a new sponsor, Marvel? No.
Oh, yeah.
All right, I can't hold this off. Listen, I crammed tape study on these guys, so don't follow me for a betting advice on this one. Like, this was last minute, just have something. I was kind of hoping that Ben would miss it, so I could have been the guy to drop knowledge on him and be like, dude, you didn't even know about this fight. So I'll start with the American Morales and what I've seen. I mean, obviously you got a little more fights on Tough, which is good, but official fights, he's only had 3 fights in 5 years since getting cut from the UFC, so that's not good. What I've seen, he stalks his opponent. He's a pretty technical boxer. He keeps his right hand glued to his chin, which is something I do like. He's a pressure counter striker, good at slipping and ripping. I love his straight right. He attacks with combos, really steps into a shot, really sits on his punches, which I like. He has some power. I'll give him that. I like that he looks for elbows, slicing elbows inside. Defensively, I don't say this much. He does well to bounce his head off the center line, which is usually like, I always say, oh, this guy likes head movement. He can sneak in a takedown, though when he gets the fight to the ground, he needs to improve his top control. But he's got some good back takes, some hard ground and pound. He showed great ground and pound in his last fight. I didn't watch a single second of Tough, so not much of a defensive wrestler for someone who comes from a wrestling background. But he is hard to hold down. He's got a pretty good get-up game. He can get subs off his back. He got a triangle in his last fight off the ground at the end of the fight. That fight that was already winning, and he has really good cardio. Idris Elba, Alibi, Idris,
Alibi.
Alibi. Yeah. I know his name is not Idris Elba. I'm just kidding. He should at least go by Stringer Bell. Stringer Bell has a high guard defense. He can fight out of both stances. Definitely more of an explosive kind of guy. He really explodes with the shots. He is very wild though. He throws a lot of big looping punches. Tend to throw a lot of overhands. He throws hard though. He's got good power. He'll throw some fun spinning attacks. Like you said, he the flying knee isn't something new just on Tough. He was throwing flying knees on the regional scene. He wants to space though. He doesn't like being pressured. He pillars, and someone who shout out to the listener on the last preview is like Keith hates pillar. I hate pillaring. He pillars. He does check kicks, but I like as far as his wrestling, I didn't see too much of it. I saw a lot of body lock takedowns. And he's got some good ground and pound. So what I saw of these guys that I scrambled last minute, I like it. Like, I mean, obviously flyweights insert, you like every flyweight. This is a fun scrap. I like what I've seen from both fighters. I think Morales is the more tactical fighter, while Idiris is like, he's more wild, but he's way more explosive. I like what you said. I hope both guys stick around in the UFC. I mean, I know Morales has already had a chance, and if he goes 0-3, it doesn't really look good, but I don't know what the odds are. I don't know who the favorite is based on their records. One being undefeated always kind of leans that way. What I've seen, I think Idris would be the bigger favorite. I want to go the opposite. I want to say Morales was the early big shots from Idris, and then I think he pressures him and he lands good shots. He uses more technique. I actually think he can get a takedown too himself. I'm going to say Morales. Again, I'm guessing it's an upset. I'm going to say Morales starts off the night with an upset. Give me Morales by decision.
Women's flyweights take the cage next at UFC 319 as Karine Silva faces Dione Barbosa in a short notice rematch of their first meeting on the regionals. Silva, the 31-year-old Brazilian, is 18-5 overall. She's 4-1 since joining the UFC out of season 5 of Dana White's Contender Series. She is coming in off a loss. She came into the UFC, won her first 4 fights in a row, 3 of them by finish, kind of minted herself one of the more promising up-and-comers in the division before running into Viviane Araújo last November at UFC 309. She came out on the wrong end of a decision there and is looking to kind of claw her way back up the ladder here. She had been scheduled to take on JJ Aldrich, but Aldrich withdrew from the card just a week or two out, and in steps a familiar face in the form of Barbosa. 33-year-old, also Brazilian, is 8-3 overall. She is 2-1 since joining the UFC out of season 7 of the Contender Series. She's already fought once this year. It was back at UFC on ESPN Emmett versus Murphy in April, where she arm triangled Diana Belbitsa in the first round. She steps in here, again, short notice, perhaps being part of it, but Silva is a comfortable favorite. She's minus 200. Barbosa is plus 170. Worth noting that, as I alluded to, these two have fought before. It was back a little over 6 years ago in Katana Fight. So that is a promotion, kind of Southern Brazil, Northern Argentina. That's, I mean, it's not one of the highest level promotions in South America, but it's not foam rubber kindergarten mats on the floor either. That fight, Barbosa actually won by decision, and that is all I know about it, because Katana Fight is not great about getting their footage available. So, Keith, if you've seen that fight, actually, you have the advantage on me. But honestly, 6 years in between and the slight age gap between these women, they're different fighters than they were then anyway, in my opinion. I mean, I like both of these fighters. I think they're both good additions to this division. And Karine Silva, like, I'm not jumping off her bandwagon after the Araújo fight. I know that this is kind of a thing that I'll go to a lot, but Silva is a fighter that, even though I think she's just 31, she feels more like a young prospect to me. And she feels like someone who started as an athlete and is becoming more and more of a fighter and is still figuring out ways to consistently win rounds and consistently win fights when she can't just flat out bully her opponent. Because against, especially like Marina Moroz and Ariane Lipski, just, she was younger, faster, bigger, stronger, hit harder, and that and some aggression will cover up a world of mistakes. Against Araújo, who is a big, strong, athletic flyweight, even though she's substantially older, it wasn't quite enough, and Silva seemed to kind of struggle to come up with a backup plan. I think she's going to get back on track here against Barboza. There are a lot of kind of similarities in these women's physiques, in their games, but I think Silva is just a little faster, a little stronger. I think she's going to probably force Barboza onto her back foot. She's going to be the one coming forward, trying to get in close. And I think Silva probably wins the decision here. I think if she wants, she can probably get Barboza on the ground and do some work there. But I also think she can do more damage kind of in close, phone booth to mid-range striking exchanges. I do think this matchup favors Silva at this point, and I think she wins by decision.
Yeah, this is a fight that I'm pretty intrigued in for, something that's buried on the prelims. I mean, sure, obviously do with the card, but they always tend to bury promising females. You said if you never got to see the first fight and you have to dig deep in the internet to find it. Well, when I'm looking for two women on the internet, I'm digging deep. It's a little different, but let's start with Karine Silva. She's pretty well rounded. Like, that stands out to me. She's a kickboxer. She has really quick hands, throws straight shots down the pike, throws a lot of combos. I'm not too turned off by her performance in her last fight. It wasn't. I thought she was going to win, and it wasn't her best performance. But I tend to lean more to what we saw before that. She got a good kicking game, throws a lot of kicks, teep kicks. She's got a fast high kick. She's a good wrestler. She likes body lock takedowns. She also could shoot from the outside and chain takedowns together well. But she's I'd give her like a B for the wrestling, but she's a very strong grappler though. She got fast back takes. She's got 9 submission wins. She can get subs off her back. One negative, she does play BJJ a little bit too much. Instead of trying to get back to the feet, which is concerning. Now, by Barbosa, she's big for the weight class. Very big, very athletic, a little more elusive on the feet. She moves well, cuts angles well, also well-rounded. She's explosive, looked great in her last fight. Quick hands, attacks with combinations. She'll throw some spinning attacks and stuff. I really like her kicking game. She got a fast, high kick. She can obviously grind in the clinch. She has that judo Olympian background. Obviously, she has throws and trips and all the stuff you expect from high-level judoka. But she can also wrestle. She can shoot from the outside. We started the last fight. She got some fast entries. She won't. If the fight hits the ground, she's also a BJ. I don't know where I was going with that. Sorry about that. If the fight hits the ground, she's a BJJ black belt, and I like what I've seen in her. Much different than you see from a traditional judoka who's like rushed into position. She's not. She's control. She'll take the back. She has 4 submission wins. She had an incredible armbar on the Contender Series. When she's on her back, she can hit a sweep. She will look for subs on her back again instead of scrambling back to her feet. And she also faded late against Karikati, which is I don't know if I'm saying her name wrong. So a lot of the striking should be interesting. I think Silva has the power. Barbosa probably has the speed. Grappling, I really think who gets the top position should have an advantage because I think both would challenge each other with the submissions. This is a big step up in competition for Barbosa, for Silva, where she is now, not where she was, when they 4 years ago. Will it be too much too soon? I know she's not young, so I shouldn't say too soon, but is it too big of a jump, I should say? Who did I already know who I'm going to pick, but who did you say the favorite was?
Silva's minus 200.
Oh, that's a much bigger favorite than I thought she'd be. I'm going to say it's not too big of a step up in competition. I actually think she's going to be faster on the feet. I think she actually might be the slightly better wrestler, as long as she doesn't do something crazy. I think Silva tries to bully her and get the fight down and control her. I think we're going to have some really fun scrambles. Like I said, this is the fight I'm looking forward to. I'm not very confident in my pick, but I'm going to go the opposite. I'm going to say Barbosa wins. Give me Barbosa by decision.
All right, there we go. Disagreement on the first 2 fights out of the gate at UFC 319. Buckle up, folks. Next up on the UFC 319 prelims, we have a middleweight. I was going to say a middleweight battle. A middleweight matchup between Bryan Battle and Nursulton Ruziboev. Battle, the 30-year-old North Carolinian, is 12-2 with 1 no contest overall. He is 7-1 with 1 no contest since joining the UFC as the middleweight winner of The Ultimate Fighter Season 29. He is coming in off a win, and he is undefeated in his last 5 fights. He fought most recently back in December at UFC 310, picking up a split decision over Randy Brown, an accomplishment that was marred only by the fact that Battle missed weight by 4 pounds for that fight. Not sure whether it is because of that weight miss or some other reason, but he's fighting up at 185 pounds here against an opponent who also has been fighting at 170, but is stepping back up in the form of Ruziboev. 31-year-old from Uzbekistan is 36-9-2 with 2 no contests overall. He is 4-1 in the UFC. He is on a 2-fight win streak, comprising both of his cage appearances of this year so far. He knocked out Eric McConaughey in the second round back in February, then came back in May at UFC Fight Night Burns versus Morales and won a unanimous decision over Dustin Stoltzfus. Ruziboev steps into the cage here, back up at 185 pounds, looking to string together his 3rd straight win. He is not favored to do so. Battle is your favorite at -170. Ruziboev is +145 coming back. Keith, if I know you at all, you're pretty high on both of these guys as kind of fringe contenders, interesting up-and-comers that are, still in their early 30s. Who gets it done here, and what does the fight look like?
Yeah, I like both guys. I definitely like Battle better at welterweight, being that he has such a size advantage. Obviously, he missed weight so bad, and then he was on a run at welterweight. So, moving up, that obviously changes things. I know I know I do MMA so much that I naturally keep changing R's to H's, even they're not Brazilian. It's like trained in me to do. I know Ruziboev used to fight at welterweight, a while back too. So this is a really, really why this is so low on the card, and maybe it's because it's the weight change, but this fight's above this that has no business being above two really, I think, really promising guys. Like I said, I've been a fan of Battle. He was a big welterweight. He's not going to be undersized at middleweight. On the feet, he has really good output. Might even be more if he's not cutting weight. He just marches down his opponent. Good boxing. He's got quick hands, very accurate. He works behind a crisp jab. He attacks with combinations. He kind of just touches and holds back his power until there's an opening. That's something I love that fighters will do, kind of conserve your energy. I'd say he has plus power. I think putting out the extra weight will actually help. He mixes attacks together well. He mixes punches and kicks together well. I love he loves his going to the jab and then on one side and then throwing a high kick on the other side. Nice kicking game, good teep kicks. Like I said, he's got a good high kick. He does need to chuck his chin a little bit more. That's something I'm worried about. He also rolls with punches, something that he does well to deflect shots and not get caught clean. Again, I've talked about how I don't think that looks too well for the judges, but he also drops his left hand a little bit, so he's open to right hand counters. Something he has to watch. Someone like Ruziboev is a very good striker. He will use his size well in the clinch and dirty box, and I don't think that'll even be a problem at middleweight. He's a very good clinch striker. He's been wrestling a lot lately, looking for takedowns, though I don't think he's great at it. It's something he definitely needs to improve. But if he's taken down, he is a solid grappler. And I also think he's backing up a little bit to his wrestling. He gets more takedowns because of his threat of his striking. Like he'll set up his takedowns with his striking, and he's pretty hard to take down. If he is taken down, he can get right back up. And he also has 5 career subs. But the best part of his game is his cardio. And you mentioned against Randy Brown, he missed weight, and then he won a very close fight. Would he have won that if he had to cut more and is zapped on his cardio? Big question. Ruziboev, he said, after his last fight, he was someone I said, you have to watch out for this guy. He's big for the weight class. He's long and lanky. He's well-rounded. He's a good striker, especially from distance. really springs into his shots, similar to the Kazakh, the Idris Elba guy in the first fight. Imagine the person who just doesn't watch the whole show and just like, oh, I'm really interested in that band. I'm like, what? Idris Elba? What is he talking about? But anyways, quick hands. He's accurate. I love his right hand. He will throw it a little too much, looking for it. He can kind of overthrow his punches sometimes, similar to the Kazakhstan fighter in the beginning of the card. He has good power though. I mean, he knocked Eric Mechanico out. He's got a big kicking game. He loves to time like kicks with his counter right hand, like his opponent's kicks. Like I said, he doesn't throw his left hand enough. He will wrestle, but I don't think he's as good as a wrestler as people think. But if he gets the fight to the ground, he's a very strong grappler. Good ground and pound. He's a huge submission threat. He's got 20 subs on his record. But he's a weak defensive wrestler. And I know people say Keats can be really tough on wrestlers and say everyone's not that good a wrestler. Okay, fair enough. I think it's an amazing fight. It's like you said, it's my favorite fight on the card besides the main event. I've flip-flopped. I'm worried about it up a weight class. They're both my boys. They're two of my favorite fighters. I'm gonna go with my man Battle. I'm gonna go with my man Battle for two reasons. One thing about Battle I'll say is he doesn't get enough credit for his intelligence. He will have a good game plan and put himself in the best position on whether it's try to wrestle certain guys, try to clinch certain guys, just try to win with volume, press people on his back foot. Like the Juicy fight was a perfect example of that. We just forced him on his back foot, and then he was wrestling him when he got in close distance. So that's one reason. And the other thing is he's going to have the more volume. And when I'm close on the fence, I'm going to go with the guy who's just going to throw more. So give me Battle. I'll say he wins by decision.
Yeah, I'm with you in that this is probably the most interesting matchup on the whole card outside of the main event. And yeah, I like both these guys a lot. They feel as though they're both still kind of works in progress and getting better, even though, again, they're both over 30, and Ruziboev in particular already has like 500 fights on his record. It was interesting for me to look at Ruziboev's one loss in the UFC, which was against Joaquin Buckley. It's rare that you see this particular MMA dynamic play out this starkly, because Ruziboev was the tallest welterweight in the UFC at the time they fought, and Buckley might have been the shortest. And both of them strikers by inclination. You know, obviously Ruziboev has a million submissions, but he loves to strike, and especially at the UFC level, he's tended to stay there until somebody forces the issue. But it was kind of a case study in the shorter guy with the shorter reach trying to navigate that no man's land and get into the range where he can do his damage versus the taller, rangier fighter trying to keep him away and keep it at his preferred distance. Buckley won all three rounds, and he did it basically by slipping, rolling with, or just taking and shrugging off some of Ruziboev's best shots and then getting inside, landing his own shots, and getting back out without getting clipped on the way out. That's not a route to victory against Ruziboev that Battle's going to be able to follow. He's just, there are a bunch of things he does well, but that particular route to victory is, I don't think is going to be there for him. Honestly, for me, it comes down to a lot to what you kind of said. It's a lot of this is so evenly matched. I do kind of lean towards Battle as the one who's probably going to throw more volume. And if they're both up at 185 pounds, I'm thinking Battle's going to be able to keep up that kind of pace for all three rounds without any concern. Not a ton of confidence in this, you know, and if I were a betting man, this were a betting show, I might bet Ruziboev just strictly on price, because if a fight feels like a pick 'em and one guy's, you know, almost plus 150, you start looking at price. But I'm leaning Battle by decision as well, but very, very excited for this fight. And it'll be an interesting conversation what's next for them, either at welterweight or middleweight. Next up at UFC 319 is I better check. Lightweight clash between Edson Barboza and Drakkar Klose. Barboza, the 39-year-old Brazilian. That dude has been in the UFC for half his life at this point. 24-12 overall. 18-12 in the UFC. 14-8 at lightweight. He has bounced back and forth between lightweight and featherweight over the last 5 years, but he's 14-8 at lightweight, and he's back up at lightweight here, meeting Klose. 37-year-old from Michigan is 15-3-1 overall. He is 9-3 in the UFC. He's coming in off a loss. He strung together 4 straight wins from 2022 to 2024 before running into Joel Alvarez at UFC on ESPN Covington versus Buckley last December. He got scorched by Alvarez in like 3 minutes, so he's looking to jump back into the win column here against Barboza. Oh, I realize now that I didn't mention Barboza's coming in off a loss as well. He fought Laron Murphy, who's in your co-main event on Saturday, losing a unanimous decision to him in the headliner of UFC Fight Night 241 last May. Prior to that, he'd been on a 2-fight win streak. So Barboza, after that loss at featherweight, moving back up to lightweight here, meeting Klose. Your favorite, Keith, is minus 150. Underdog is plus 130. Who are they?
It's close. It's a close one. I'm going to say Barbosa is the favorite.
You're correct. Edson Barboza, minus 150. Drakkar Klose, plus 130. Our colleague, occasional multiple-time substitute on our show, Devin Tejada, in his show, Check the Kick last week, he was talking about this being the year of the MMA unks, he called it. All these fighters kind of 37 to 42 that he thought were washed, and all of a sudden kind of showing out a little bit. There are a couple of fighters on this card that are going to want to join that club. We got Edson Barboza fighting. We got
Michael Page,
Jared Cannonier, Diego Ferreira, plenty of them.
Michael Page,
Tim
Elliott.
Yes, and Page and Barboza in particular are the ones where you would not have thought their style would transition into their 40s. Barboza always been about explosion, and then we'll get to Page when we get to him, but on top of being an incredible athlete, that style is timing. Edson Barboza joined the UFC in 2010. He's been in the UFC for 15 years. So yeah, it's almost half his life at this point. The strange thing is, he's almost the same fighter he was 15 years ago. He is a lanky kickboxer. And even by the modern standards of the division, he's still tall, rangy for the division. He is an explosive Muay Thai striker who obviously he's at his best as an out striker. He authored still one of the top 3 or 4 knockouts in UFC history with his wheel kick of Terry Edom, but he's always done his best work from all the way outside. He has better inside weapons than he gets credit for, but he still struggles to use them when it's being forced on him. He's the kind of prototypical long-range kickboxer that hates being put on the back foot. He still kind of is that. He still isn't losing to bad fighters. It is kind of remarkable how competitive he still is at this point in his career. And as strange and wonderful as it is that he's still this competitive at age 39, for him to drop from 155 to 145 at like age 36 or 35 when he did just seemed like sheer silliness, but he did fine at 145. I remember I was in attendance back in 2021 at UFC 262 when he fought Shane Burgos. I think I might have picked Burgos, and it looked okay for a minute. Burgos was following the game plan to beat Edson Barboza, keep him on his back foot, make it ugly, just get into the range where you're punching when he's trying to kick. It worked great until Barboza zapped him with one long range shot that didn't even look that hard, and 2 seconds later, Burgos goes down like he got hit with a tranq dart. That's still Edson Barboza. Drakkar Klose is a guy that I feel like I underrate him just because he's a little inconsistent in his performances, but more than that, he just doesn't stay busy enough. And if you've been watching this show for more than the last 6 months, you've heard me say this. Lightweight is a division where it doesn't matter if you win every single time out. If you only fight once a year, you're going to get passed by people just zooming around you on the right and honking. You'll get passed by fighters who aren't as good as you are, but are more busy. Just the waters are moving too fast. It's the reason that Khabib Nurmagomedov, one of the greatest fighters of all time, only graduated to fighting top 10 fighters in like the last 7 or 8 fights of his career, because he was an absolute killer, but then he just disappeared for 14 months. Klose, his name sounds like a designer imposter cologne that you would find at that little kiosk at the mall. You know, if you like Drakkar, you'll love Drakkar Klose. But the irony is that he's going to want this fight close. Against most fighters, he's a pretty good outstriker. He's a good boxer. He's able, to mix in kicks well. But against Barboza, I don't think he's going to want to be at that range. I think he's going to want to try to keep it close, kind of keep coming forward so that Barboza has the choice of, okay, either let him in or keep backing up, which makes it harder for Barboza to get his kicks off. Klose, I think he has decent but underused offensive wrestling. He might want to bust it out here. Again, just even a couple of attempts early on to give Barboza something to think about. Even if, say, he goes 1 for 4 on takedowns in the first round, and the one time he takes Barboza down, Barboza bounces back up in 3 seconds. It doesn't look like he made a whole lot of progress there, but it'll affect the way Barboza strikes for the rest of the fight. Look no further than Steve Erceg versus Ode Osborne this past weekend. I'm gonna go with the slight upset here. I like Klose in this matchup. And maybe I need to stop second guessing Edson Barboza, because I thought it was a terrible idea when he moved down to 145. And now that he's moving back up to 155, I see him against a guy that might be able to cut off the cage, chase him down, keep things, again, close, and push him around a little bit, which not a lot of 145 pounders could. Give me Drakkar Klose to win 2 rounds out of 3 against Edson Barboza here in a fight that it's the kind of fight where you're on the edge of your seat and tense the whole time, but it never fully explodes into one guy just getting his block knocked off. So exciting fight, even if it doesn't have quite the rewatch value.
Yeah. So when we talk about fights that intrigue me, and I think people might have been surprised when I said like Karine Silva versus Dione Barbosa and stuff, I'm torn on this fight. Because if Barbosa wins, I'm intrigued by this fight because it's going to be fun. It's going to be Barbosa kick in and move it and do everything. If Klose wins, it's going to be dragging and boring. Exactly how you described it. But that I am intrigued by the chess battle that we have. Because I think they're very unique fighters in different ways, and they're very distinctly different from each other. Obviously, Barbosa, he's a Muay Thai striker. He's this legendary striker. He's a builder because he picks up the pace when the opponents slow down, and he starts landing his shots, and he kind of gets in his rhythm. You talked about he's a very underrated boxer because he gets all the credit for his kicks. He's explosive. He's got quick hands. He works by a nice jab. He has destroyed so many fighters with his straight right. He has a great left hook to the body. He has good power. But Dan Hooker still wakes up with nightmares about Barboza's left to the body, and that was like 7 years ago. Yeah, and everybody else wakes up to nightmares about his kicks because it has got to be one of the most punishing things in the world to be kicked to the body by Edson Barboza. I mean, he's one of the greatest kickers in the history of the sport. Kicks to all areas of the body, but especially the body kicks, the leg kicks. I love his stepping knees. But we know how he loses. He loses the way he always loses. He needs space to work. You pressure him. Now you're gonna have to come through some stuff, and you're gonna have to be tough as hell. But if you can crowd the kicker, you can have success against Edson Barboza. I also don't trust his durability anymore. He's been in so many wars. He's 39 years old. Like, what can he have left? Now, what we've seen a hell of a chin. I mean, this dude has taken so much damage. You go back to what Khabib did to him and Kevin Lee did to him, Gaethje, Chikadze, Lerone Murphy in his last fight. I expect eventually his chin will fail him, and it's going to fail quickly. It's going to be one of those like, oh, I don't want to, we want one of the guys who we love watching fight, in the all violence club. You write the article. I'll nominate Edson Barboza for the whole fucking awesome because he is.
Oh, good grief. Yeah.
But one day, I truly believe it's going to be one day, it's like, oh, God, I really want to watch Edson Barboza get knocked out again. It's that day is coming soon. Could it be Saturday? He hasn't fought in over a year. That is really concerning to me. He was never a wrestler. I mean, he won't look for takedowns. His wrestling defense has never been good, and I think it's getting worse. He struggles to get back to his feet. He did show a pretty good submission defense against Bryce Mitchell, which is pretty impressive. And there's some question marks about his cardio lately. Klose is a high volume striker. He fights at a very he's not a Bryan battle in your face going, but he fights at a very controlled pace. He's a good striker. He's very good at measuring his opponents, which would be tough to do against Barbosa. I mean, he's a stationary target you can, but I mean, it's hard to sit and measure when the guy's kicking you, but he has good, he's got a good straight left. He does throw from his hips a little bit, which leaves him open to counters. And I don't know if you want to drop your hands with someone like Barbosa throwing kicks at you. But he's a very strong guy. He has a big base underneath him. He steps into his shots. He has some nice power. I'd put him more in like the plus category. Not great, but he has 6 TKOs. Calf kicks are the best part of his game. But he doesn't check leg kicks. So, and I don't know if he wants to get in kicking battle with Edson Barboza. Now, you mentioned it, like he can strike from the outside, or what he does is he's not a pocket boxer. He closes the distance and he grinds in the clinch. He dirty boxes. He looks for elbows inside. And I want to call him a wrestler. I'd say he's more of like a clinch wrestler, more body lock guy than a drive through your hips kind of guy. I'd probably categorize him as an above average wrestler. He will catch kicks to get his opponents to the ground. I don't know if you want to do that with Edson Barboza, try to catch kicks coming in. He's very physically strong. I mean, go back to like how he slammed Joe Selecki and like knocked him out by just picking up and slamming him. But as far as his overall grappling, he's out grappled by Beneil Dariush, but so does everybody. He did show against Dariush he's hard to get submitted. I mean, Dariush had his back for really long periods of time. I'm glad that you took Klose because I kind of feel the same way. I'm very on the fence in this one. Klose is the guy that if he closes distance, he can grind Barbosa. I don't like his wrestling. I think I'm going to be wrong about this one, and I think I'm going to be wrong. Like, you got to know right away. But I'm going to go the opposite. I'm going to say Barbosa still has enough, keeps his distance, uses a little bit of movement. He doesn't get many opportunities to throw strikes, but I don't think Klose is going to do enough damage when he's in the clinch. And Barbosa gets the space, he's kicking, he's throwing hard, and he doesn't have to. Like, he's a guy who can lose on volume, but when he strikes, it's so like bam! It's so like wow! Like how fast it's so dangerous that he gets a little like extra. Like one guy's kicking field goals, he's throwing touchdown passes. But that doesn't mean both teams had the same amount of offensive snaps. And that's kind of thing. I think he's going to have less opportunities, but he's going to make the best of it. No confidence in my pick at all, but give me Barbosa by decision.
We stay in the lightweight division at UFC 319 as Chase Hooper squares off against Alexander Hernandez. Hooper, the 25-year-old Washington State native, 16-3-1 overall. He is 8-3 since joining the UFC as a veteran of Season 2 of Dana White's Contender Series, where he won but was not immediately signed because it was Season 2, not any season after Season 2. At any rate, he is on a 5-fight win streak. Since getting nuked by Steve Garcia 2.5 years ago, he has wins over Nick Fiore, Jordan Levitt, Vyacheslav Borshov, Clay Guida, and Jim Miller. The most recent of those, the Miller fight, was at UFC 314 back in April. So Hooper, going from a bit of a comic relief novelty to an actual sneaky up and coming fringe contender in one of the toughest divisions in the UFC, but he'll need to get past Hernandez to keep that going. Hernandez, 32-year-old from San Antonio, 16-8 overall, 8-7 in the UFC. He's on a 2-fight win streak. He already fought once this year. It was at UFC Fight Night, Vettori versus Dolidze in March, where he won a unanimous decision over Kurt Holobaugh. He will look for his 3rd straight win. It would be his first 3-fight win streak in his entire UFC run. He's not favored to get it done. As I mentioned during the intro, Hooper is the biggest favorite on the card. He's minus 300. Hernandez plus 240 coming back. You and I, Keith, have been doing this show for about going on 5 years now, or, right around 5 years. I was doing some counting the other day. We are probably right around our 200th event that we have previewed together. We have like well over 300 shows total, including recaps, but around 200 UFC events that we've previewed. I never would have thought that we'd be previewing a fight where Chase Hooper is going for his 6th straight win in the UFC lightweight division, and he's a 3-1 favorite to get it done. But here we are in this crazy world. I mean, the biggest difference between Chase Hooper now and Chase Hooper, say 5 or 6 years ago, is 5 or 6 years ago, he compared himself to and said he was Ben Askren's son. These days, now that Roman Kopylov is in the UFC, there's a much better visual comparison to make. Because it's not just kind of like the curly hair, like their faces look the same, just Hooper hasn't had his nose completely turned inside out yet. I don't think Hernandez is going to be the one to do it. I'm glad that we get to talk about Alexander Hernandez on the same card that we're going to get to talk about Aaron Pico, because I can sort of get warmed up to talk about a fighter that has incredible physical gifts and all the weapons offensively and can never seem to string it together well enough to even just like win 3 fights in a row and move from a frustrating scream at the TV fighter into an actual contender. Because that's Hernandez. He's tried everything. He's tried fighting down at 145, back up at 155. He's tried jumping from, I think he was at San Antonio's Ohana Academy when he joined the UFC. Then I think he went to Fortis for a while. Now he's at Factory X. He's really tried tinkering with the formula, but it's just never quite come together. And it is a little bit Pico-like in that anyone Hernandez is fighting, he's almost always more athletic than they are. He's almost always a harder hitter on a single shot for single shot basis. If he wants to, he's usually a better wrestler than they are, but he just finds new and creative ways to lose almost every fight. Like, I've seen him get nuked by fighters that aren't known for nuking people. Like, he got blown out of the water by Chris Gritzmacher in like 2 minutes. Like, Chris Gritzmacher wasn't even really a one-shot knockout merchant in Midwest regionals, but he destroyed Alexander Hernandez. I was cage side for one of the most dreadful UFC fights of all time when he fought Francisco Trinaldo in San Antonio. He got the win, but like, I actually scored it against him. He just got dragged into a Francisco Trinaldo fight where neither guy threw any offense, neither guy did anything. Just Hernandez has never learned how to win MMA fights. And that sounds like a weird generalization to make, but the tape bears it out. And that actually makes this fight kind of easy for me to pick, because if nothing else, Chase Hooper has figured out how to win MMA fights. He came to the UFC as a dangerous submission artist, like not a great grappler in terms of being like a great grappler all around. Like, he was a lousy offensive wrestler, just wasn't very physically strong, didn't have good entries. So his success grappling tended to be predicated on either working off his back or counting on his opponent to get tired or make a mistake where he could, take him down or sweep the top position and really go to work. It made it tough for him to win fights consistently in the UFC. He alternated wins and losses for his first 5 or 6 fights. All of a sudden, he started stringing things together. And the things that have changed, he has gotten a little bit physically stronger. He's become a more confident striker. He's still not, I still don't think he's a great striker. Like he doesn't have great hand speed. He doesn't have a ton of power, but he now throws good basic combinations, and he's figured out ways to win fights even if he gets stuck on the feet. That's about the best way I can put it. Like when he beat Vyacheslav Borshov, it's not that he beat him because he had a super obvious route to victory. Borshov has terrible takedown defense, poor grappling defense, and Hooper, you know, is a very good submission artist. The eye opener was that Hooper outstruck him in the first round. Like he beat Borshov at really the only thing Borshov is good at. Yeah, I think Hooper beats Hernandez here. Hernandez could beat Hooper easily. All he'd have to do is sprawl and brawl. You know, and honestly, if Hernandez clips Hooper hard in the first minute of this fight and kind of makes Hooper go to plan B, like, oh, maybe I don't want to hang out on the feet with this guy, Hernandez could beat him very easily. It's hard for me to pick it. I think Hooper more than holds his own on the feet with Hernandez. I think if one of these guys starts to wear down and wear out as the fight goes along, it's more likely to be Hernandez. Hooper's become comfortable fighting at just sort of a moderate pace where he throws a lot of strikes without like overswinging on them and burning a bunch of energy. And I think sooner or later he does get Hernandez down. Hernandez, for as good an offensive wrestler as he can be sometimes, has always been pretty easy to take down for people who want to take him down. Give me Hooper by second round submission here.
Oh, this fight. I am intrigued by it, and I'm intrigued by Hooper and Hernandez. I think I'm slightly higher on Hernandez than you are, but I think he's a test for Hooper. Like this, and you mentioned how he can win, and Hernandez obviously he's a boxer. He's got fast hands. He's accurate. He's one of the fighters that matches shots really well. He's pretty athletic. He can slide in and out of range pretty well. It'd be hard to slide in and out of range against a long guy like Hooper, but when he finds his range, he can explode with combinations. His left hook being his best blow. I like that he mixes punches to the body and the head together well. He does mix up punches and kicks together well too. He is open to leg kicks though. I go back to like the David Jackson fight. Jackson chopped him up with leg kicks. He will look for takedowns. I wouldn't call him a wrestler, but he's an underrated grappler. Like he's pretty good at winning scrambles, but he's a bad defensive wrestler. And his card is much better at 155 than it was at 145. That was obviously a field experiment. Hooper, I mean, this is talking about a guy who's really, improved over the years. He has one thing that's getting mentioned is how great his experience is. I mean, this is a guy, he's only 25 years old, and this is his 12th UFC fight. Like, that's pretty incredible. He could be a guy, and we've talked about this before, he could be a guy that challenged Jim Miller one day if he could, if he's a guy who has longevity, because he's obviously so far ahead of Miller at this time when Miller joined the UFC. Now, again, he's got to have longevity. He's got to do well. And I'm not saying it, but he's on his way. Now, he's still not a good athlete, but he's a southpaw who can use his length, well. He kind of understands range a little better. He will press the action and win with volume, and he continues to improve his striking. I think he doesn't have the fastest hand speed. He has become fairly technical. He throws straight shots down the pike. He's shown some pop recently, and he's still not in his power years. I mean, he hurt Barshev, which was pretty.
He might never have power years. Like who knows?
No, that's true. That's true. He still has some big defensive issues. He lacks head movement. He's taken a lot of damage over the years for guys only 25. Go back to like Steve Peterson, Steve Garcia. He took a lot of damage to those guys. He isn't a great wrestler, but he's pretty good at timing his entries. So it's more about timing. It's kind of like how George St. Pierre was. Like, say what you want. George St. Pierre was not this fantastic wrestler. He just had great reading on the timing, and that's kind of what Hooper does. And Hooper also has a great mindset. And again, I'm not comparing George St. Pierre to Chase Hooper. I'm not saying Chase Hooper is George St. Pierre, and I'm not dogging on George St. Pierre. I mean, I'm freaking his biggest fanboy you'll find. But as far as getting the takedowns, he has a great mindset. He just keeps working to get the fight to the ground. He doesn't get frustrated. Now, he I mean, he was always known for his grappling, but he has become a wizard on the ground. He's great at Kramer scramble and winning it. He's got good top game. He's got some slick back takes. I was going back to like the Alex Caceres fight where he was taking Alex Caceres back, who's a very underrated grappler himself. He's aggressive against submission. He uses his long arms, legs well to lock submission. We saw him be able to get a great comeback against Peter Barrett based on his legs and his arms. And I mean, God, imagine losing early to Peter Barrett now for Chase Hooper. He's a very funky style wrestler. His hips always moving. He caught Jim Miller at a banana split. Jim freaking Miller. Like that's impressive. He can get submissions off his back. He chains submission steps together well, and he's got cardio and toughness that is just off the charts. 5 years ago, I would have laughed at you if you told me I would be picking Chase Hooper over Anthony Hernandez. But Chase Hooper is the perfect example of not giving up on young fighters, because when Raul Rojas loses a fight when he's 19, 18, whatever, like people say, oh, he's a fraud, he's fraud checked and all that stupid. It's like, have we not learned anything? And Chase Hooper is a perfect example of if you got a young fighter opponent to Chase Hooper. Now, I still think it's tricky. I don't think just being able to sprawl and brawl would be the answer against Chase Hooper, because Hooper's threat of the takedown gives him more opportunities to land strikes. Like I can see him going for a takedown, going for that, get stuff, get stuff, all of a sudden fake coming up and then coming up with a knee up as he does it or something like this. So I still think I give him a little more. I'm higher on his striking a little bit more because of his threat of his takedowns. But that said, I don't think it's going to matter. I think he's going to take Hernandez down. I think he's going to beat him up, and I think he's going to sub him. Give me Hernandez. Like I said, he's a better grappler than he gets credited, but it ain't going to matter. I think Hooper submits him in the second round.
Next up on the UFC 319 undercard is a strawweight matchup between Jessica Andrade and Godinez. Andrade, the 33-year-old Brazilian, is 26-14 overall. 17-13 across a distinguished run with the Ultimate Fighting Championship. She, of course, is well known for having won in 3 different UFC divisions: women's bantamweight, women's flyweight, and strawweight. She is the former strawweight champ, and she is back down at strawweight after spending most of the last couple years at flyweight. She's on a 2-fight losing streak, dating back a full year. That may form part of this decision, but she lost a unanimous decision to Natalia Silva last September at UFC Fight Night Burns versus Brady, and then came back this May at UFC 315 and got choked out in the first round by Jasmine Jasudavicius. So Andrade, looking to prove that she has something left to offer the UFC in any of these divisions, back down at the division where she made her greatest legacy, and waiting for her will be Godinez. 31-year-old Mexican is 13-5 overall. She's 8-5 in the UFC. She's coming in off a win. She fought most recently at UFC on ESPN Moreno versus Urseg back in March, where she won a unanimous decision over Julia Pilastri. That snapped a 2-fight losing streak for her dating back to the beginning of last year. Your favorite, Keith, is -160. Your underdog is +130. Who are they?
Lupi's a favorite.
You are correct. For the record, folks, that is 2 guesses, 2 for 2 so far for Keith Shillan. He's getting better at this. It's not going to be fun anymore if he gets it all the time.
I'm on a Chase Hooper type run.
Oh, see, Keith making that. It's so hard to get better after age 40, but Keith's, it's out here making history. Godinez -160, Jessica Andrade +130, and that line is, here's the thing. This is the toughest kind of fight to predict because it's about more than just, more than X's and O's.
Exactly.
Like, because Godinez is she is a Jekyll and Hyde fighter. And then Andrade, if she's not the most shop-worn 33-year-old in MMA history, she's on the Mount Rushmore of them. Just the number of fights she's had, the amount of damage she's taken in wins as well as losses, the weight cuts, just everything to take tread off the tires she has done, and it's shown. When you see the version of Jessica Andrade that just got completely mauled by Jasmine Jasudavicius, or hell, even just, 2 years ago that got run over by Tatiana Suarez, the one that was just kind of pushed around by Natalia Silva. It's hard to reconcile that with the fighter she was even just 5 years ago. Jessica Andrade isn't the greatest female mixed martial artist of all time. She's not even the greatest strawweight of all time, but she's on the Mount Rushmore of the most terrifying female fighters of all time. Like, pound for pound, one of the hardest hitters in MMA history, regardless of gender, weight class. Everything used to just kind of run off of her athleticism, explosion, aggression, power, whether at 115, 125, 135 pounds. But increasingly, she's definitely slowed down a bit, because the other thing about her was she used to be able to keep up a furious work rate. It wasn't just that, like, she's not Yoel Romero, where I've got 8 huge punches in my bag and I'm going to sprinkle them across 3 rounds. Jessica Andrade would just come out like a little tiny Vanderlei Silva and just throw 40 murderous hooks with both hands in the first round, but then throw 30 in the second and 30 in the third if the other woman didn't fall down. She can't keep up that work rate anymore, and she can't take the artillery that's coming back her way anymore. Her durability seems to have slipped. Notably, her earlier losses, like her most visible ones, usually saw her getting outstruck. Like, Joanna Jędrzejczyk just sniped her and kept her on the outside for 5 full rounds. Both of her fights with Rose Namajunas, even the one that she won, like, she was really struggling to get past Namajunas' jab and kicks until she finally scooped her up and dumped her on her head. Her losses more recently have seen her get out-muscled and out-wrestled, which is not something I thought we'd see out of Jessica Andrade. That's more concerning. Like, Jasmine Jasudavicius just pretzeled her. So did Tatiana Suarez. Erin Blanchfield did. Natalia Silva did. Because of that, there is a obvious route to victory for Godinez here. She isn't as big and strong as the flyweights we just talked about, like Jasudavicius or Silva, but she's probably the second best technical wrestler in any or all of the women's divisions after Tatiana Suarez. It's either her or Jasudavicius. So if I could be confident that Lupi Godinez was going to go out and use that wrestling and take Andrade down, beat her up, or do what we just saw Anthony Hernandez do to Roman Dolidze last weekend, take her down, make her get up, take her down, make her get up, and wear on that gas tank that is slipping, I'd be comfortable with Godinez as a minus 260 favorite. The reason this line is so close is that you have no idea whether Lupi Godinez is going to come out and fight to her best advantage. And I know that a lot of this is down to her just throwing out a couple of really puzzling performances, but those are going to haunt her for a long time. If you get a reputation in my mind for just crapping the bed and losing fights that you should have won, like, that's hard. That's hard for me to get out of my head. Which is why I said this is the kind of fight that's really hard to pick, because it's the question marks that are hovering over both of them. I'm going with Godinez here because I think even if Godinez doesn't come in with like the best game plan, Andrade's window for victory is really narrow. Obviously, she could clock Godinez with something big, or, if Godinez tries wrestling her, Andrade could like punish her there with like knees or something, sprawl, take her back. Andrade is still a good offensive grappler, but it's tough for me to see a way for Andrade to win this outside of that. I think Godinez wins a decision here, and whether it's a close decision or a really lopsided one is really up to Godinez.
Yeah, this fight, I'm just gonna pass. I can't break down it. I can't do it. Like, I can't do any more Lupi Godinez fights. No, I'll start with Jessica Andrade. I mean, you kind of alluded to it without coming right out saying it. I'm just really concerned that Jessica Andrade is absolutely shot. She simply isn't the physical specimen she was, and that's the issue why she struggled at flyweight. She's getting out muscled, and that was never the case. And she still can strike, but not close to what she used to be. She can still stalk her opponents and kind of overwhelm the problem. She'll tend to stand on the outside and then blitz forward with shots, and she'll throw some really big power hooks. I'm assuming she still has power. She hasn't been connecting enough to show us, but historically, she's one of the biggest pound female fighters, power hitters in MMA history. She'll lunge into her shots, leaving herself to open counter. She has, she throws some mean kicks. Her defense is bad, but even in her prime, her defense was bad. She always lacked head movement. But the biggest issue, so she struggles. She's not the physical specimen at flyweight, but she struggles with the speed of the strawweights. I mean, Shillan looks super fast, and Lupita Godinez, if she fights to her capacity, she'd be way too fast for her. Aaron Blanchfield, I know Blanchfield's a flyweight, but Blanchfield looked fast. And Blanchfield is not fast. Say what you want about her. She's a brute and she's tough as hell, but she's not fast. And she looks too fast for her. She gets her kicks, she gets her legs kicked out because she's so heavy on her front foot. You do have to worry about her chin. As she continues to take a lot of damage. She's shown a lot of signs of durability fading. Now, she can wrestle, and I assume she still has some. You mentioned her offensive grappling. I think she still has some fast entries and strong that she can toss someone on her foe, especially at strawweight. She does have a good. I think she'll be hard to hold down though. Yasmin Jasovich just destroyed her on the ground, but Jasovich is that kind of girl that's gonna bully you, that's going to make you go down a weight. So I kind of give it a little bit of pass on that. If she gets on top, she's always had legendary ground and pound. But the problem is, I talk about her not being able to get up with Jasovich on top of her, but her defense has also faded. And, Jasovich ran right through her and quickly subbed her. And you mentioned it, she's got 3 submission losses in the last 7 fights. So she's always had a good gas tank. But a lot of those, a lot of her fights recently have been going deep. So I'm, wondering if that's there. Oh, Lupita Godinez. She's a wrestler boxer that has fallen in love with her boxing. She does well to cut off the cage and kind of trap her opponents, though the problem is she won't match her opponent's output. She did that against Tabitha Ricci. Her volume continues to drop. I'll go back to the Mackenzie Dern fight. She had the perfect fight against Mackenzie Dern and just didn't throw enough, which is the reason why she lost. She just gave that fight away. Way too many single strikes. But to her credit, in her last fight, she started pulling on my heartstrings again. No, don't fall in love with Lupita Godinez, because she'd had better output against Palastri. Now she still head punts too much. When she gets in the pocket, she lets her hands go. She is good. She has fast hands. She has nice tight hooks. I like when she straightens it out a little bit and keeps it clean. She does well to really step in her shots and unleash her power. So she's got all this ability on the feet. Then her wrestling. She's a very good wrestler. One of the best female wrestlers in MMA. However, she doesn't use it enough. I'll go back to the Angela Hill fight. She refused to lose. Angela Hill's last fight, we watched yesterday against Lucindo. That's the exact fight that Lupita Godinez should have had against Angela. Should have looked exactly the same way, because she has everything Lucindo could do. The way she strikes, the way she wrestles. That's everything Lupita could have done. Lupita could have easily won that fight like Lucinda did, and she gave that fight away. Now, she's explosive. She can drive through your hips. She's so strong. She grabs a limb. Her opponent's going for a ride. She gets on the hips. She's looking to slam. She threw Jessica Penne. She threw Silvana Gomez Suarez. She threw Loma Labumi. She threw Elise Reed. She's got it. She easily take down a very strong Ariane Canalosi. She has duck on her. I won't take that out of my notes. And then she started wrestling against Palastri. If she wrestles, she's really good. Her takedown defense needs to improve, because she completely knows all aspects of wrestling, not just she not just falls in love with her striking, but she also forgets to sprawl and slip the head. She was taken down by Mackenzie Dern. Mackenzie Dern is not a good wrestler. That's why she's not an elite fighter herself. If she ends up on top, she has really good ground top game. She can follow the hips so well. She shows some slick BJJ hitting the belly down armbar against Suarez. A rear naked choke against Elise Reed. To her credit, the one good thing she showed in the Mackenzie Dern fight was submission defense. She did gas a little bit against Palastri, but the pace was really high, and it was an elevation. So I'll give her a pass. That just because she upped her output. So I know I'm talking a really long time about this fight. I think Andrade is completely shot. I think Godinez is a terrible style of snatcher for Andrade, based simply on skills, like you said, on X's and O's. That said, you always talk about the ultimate screammate, a TV fighter. Godinez is mine. I think if she had a fight IQ, she could easily be a top 5 fighter. I really believe in her skills that much. But somehow she would do everything possible to lose this fight. I just don't think Andrade will be able to capitalize on it. I just think Godinez will be too fast. I'm not making a bet on this or anything like that, because do not bet on Lupita Godinez fight, because she will try everything to lose this fight. But give me Godinez by decision.
She'll break your heart, guys. We both picked her to win, and both stand she'll break your heart. And I do like her as a sneaky high scream at the TV fighter, because my ultimate scream at the TV fighter of all time is John Dodson, the incredible puncher who would never punch. Godinez as the incredible wrestler who would never wrestle is the perfect counterpart.
Or who has really good punching power and didn't punch either.
Yeah. Middleweights are up next at UFC 319 as Gerald Meerschaert faces off against Michal Oleksiejczuk. Meerschaert, the 37-year-old Wisconsinite, is 37-19 overall. He's 12-11 in the UFC, and he's on a 2-fight losing streak. He fought most recently back in April at UFC on ESPN Emmett versus Murphy, where he came out on the wrong end of a unanimous decision against Brad Tavares. Prior to that, he served as Rainier de Ritter's welcome to the UFC and got submitted in the 3rd round by the former 1 championship, 2 division standout. So he's looking to turn around a 2-fight losing streak, looking to reassert himself as one of the trickier trap fights and fringe gatekeepers in that division. He will need to get past Oleksiejczuk in order to do so. Oleksiejczuk, 30-year-old from Poland, 20-9 with 1 no contest overall, 8-7 with 1 no contest in the UFC, 4-4 since dropping to middleweight. He joined the UFC as a visibly undersized 205-pounder, dropped to 185 pounds, and again, 4-4 since then. He is coming in off a win. He fought at UFC 314 back in April, where he knocked out Cedric Dumas in the 1st round. Thank you for your service. Looking for his 2nd straight win here. He is favored to get it, and pretty comfortably. Oleksiejczuk, one of the bigger favorites on the whole card. He is -210, Meerschaert plus 180. I get why the line is what it is. Gerald Meerschaert is 37 years old. He'll be 38 in a couple months. But even when he was 31 and just joining the UFC, he might have been the worst athlete in the UFC outside of heavyweight. That has not gotten better as he's pushed towards 40. The remarkable thing is how much success he's had despite that. Meerschaert, low-key, I think one of our guys. He always has an uphill battle to win his fights. Like he's a willing striker, but slow enough that he gets tagged a lot. He ends up having to take a lot of punishment, hangs around, and generally needs to wait for his opponents to get tired and or make a mistake. But the great thing about Meerschaert is he kind of create situations where that's more likely to happen. He doesn't go away. He keeps the pressure up. So even if you win the 1st round comfortably against Gerald Meerschaert, he's going to be in your face again in the 2nd round. He's going to be throwing his jab and his cross at you, coming forward, trying to clinch with you, because he knows that even if he gets you up against the fence and does like the level change where he bends at your waist and you get like an overhook, underhook battle, you might, in a moment of inattention, give him a chance to slap on that guillotine, and he has 350 submissions by guillotine in his career, and boom, you're Gerald Meerschaert's newest victim. It's hard not to like a guy like that. Having said that, I understand why Oleksiejczuk is as big a favorite as he is. It's kind of remarkable that he's still just 30 years old. It reminds me of just how young he was when he got to the UFC. Still a good boxer, and he had good power even at 205, even being kind of visibly small. He had good snap on his punches just from having decent technique and sitting down on his punches properly. That's carried over to 185. Even though, again, he's technically his record is worse at middleweight than it was at light heavyweight. By the eyeball test and the level of people he's fighting, he is better at 185. Like, he's 4-4, but he's losing to Caio Bajallo and Michal Pereira and Shara Bullet. He's not getting lanced by mediocre 205ers, which is what was happening to him. This is a real obvious two true outcomes fight. Either Oleksiejczuk just blisters Meerschaert and puts so much damage on him in the first 6 or 7 minutes of this fight that the thing's over and Meerschaert doesn't get a chance to do the Meerschaert thing, or Meerschaert hangs around and all of a sudden by late in the second round, the striking is starting to look almost even. Meerschaert's out jabbing Oleksiejczuk. It's like, what the hell is happening? And we get guillotine win, without exaggeration, number 21 for the guy sometime early in the third round. I think the first possibility is the much more likely one. Oleksiejczuk is just coming into his prime. Meerschaert is exiting his. And considering what Meerschaert has to do to win a fight, once that durability starts to slip, it's going to get ugly. I don't think Saturday is necessarily when it starts to get real ugly, but I think Oleksiejczuk is going to be so much faster and sharper on the feet that he's either just going to blast Meerschaert out of there in the first round, or we're going to get the thing where Meerschaert can't afford to wait and wear on his opponent, and he actually has to try his offensive wrestling early. His offensive wrestling is ugly as hell, and I think Oleksiejczuk can punish him for that too. So much as it pains me to say it, this is one of the easier fights on the card for me to pick. I'm going to say it makes it to the second round, but we have a borderline 10-8 first round. Oleksiejczuk keeps his foot on the gas in round 2, and we get a round 2 TKO.
Yeah, I mean, you said low-key Meerschaert's one of the guys. I wouldn't say low-key, man. He's one of our guys. But the problem is he's showing some major signs of not decline, but just being completely shot. Now, can he still do how he wins with even less skills is the question. Now, he's a southpaw who he beats guys with his output and his pace. The problem is his output against Brad Tavares was very low for his standards. And that's not a good sign. He always was a poor striker. His hands have always been slow. He has always eaten way too many shots because of his lack of head moments. And he's shown huge signs of his durability collapsing, which would be really bad for a guy who beats guys by just being super tough. His chin can completely give away arm anytime, and that's a problem. Now, he does throw a lot of leg kicks, which I like. He will wrestle a lot, but he's more of a grappler than a true wrestler. He has some really bad entries, but he's a guy who pressures, creates a scramble, and often finds a way to win. He's extremely bad defense wrestling. He doesn't really care. And the fact that he'll jump guillotine, as you said, makes it even worse. Now, you mentioned he's a very good grappler. His guillotine is legendary. His best chance of winning fights in 2025 is snagging a submission. And he's a guy that he can get a scramble going, catch a submission in the scramble. But, he'll often look for subs off his back instead of trying to get back to his feet. And we saw against Rene Dorito how negative that can be, kind of be put on his back. Now, of course, that fight was surprisingly very competitive. It was a Robert Whittaker competitive, but it was more competitive than my man Bo. But Oleksiejczuk, he's a southpaw. He just marches down his foe, really nice output. He's really good at forcing his opponent to their back foot and not letting them escape. He kind of bursts forward with combinations. He wings an overhand left where he kind of uses to close the distance, get in the pocket. He loves his overhand right too. I love that he does a lot of body work. He's got good KO power. You mentioned he has power at 205, and he really has power at middleweight. He's hurt a bunch of guys. His defense isn't good. He eats way too many blows. When it falls apart for him, it seems like it falls apart for him fast, which could be the case against Meerschaert. Like everything could be going well, that he makes a mistake and Meerschaert makes it pay. He's a guy that he's willing to eat a shot to land some of his own. He got hurt to the body by Michal Pereira, which, take that for what it's worth. His offensive wrestling has really improved. He'll get takedowns now, which when he first came in the UFC was not a thing. His defensive wrestling still needs to improve. And I think it has to an extent. It's his get-up game that's got a lot better. Now, he still has a big issue with his submission defense. I mean, he was subbed by Kevin Holland, and I said before, it was super ugly. It's almost like he put himself in a position to be armbarred. So I love Meerschaert, and Oleksiejczuk is the kind of fighter who's good, but still could lose stylistically to Meerschaert. Like, Meerschaert could still find a way to get the fight to the ground and sub him. We love Meerschaert, but I also love my dog, and sometimes, like, one day I'm gonna have to put my dog down, and that's kind of I feel like with this fight with Meerschaert. Like, it's gonna be sad. I'm not gonna have any, and I actually like Oleksiejczuk. He's actually a guy I kind of sneaky like. I'm not gonna have fun seeing Meerschaert get actually starched, and I think that's what's actually gonna happen. I don't think we get a chance to see Meerschaert do what he really does and start pressing the action. I think Oleksiejczuk's just gonna rush him, and I think he's gonna blast him. You said he makes the second round. I don't think he's gonna. I'm gonna say Oleksiejczuk finishes him in the very first round. Last week, I didn't mention this on the recap show. I think I don't know it was my first lock that I did a prop bet, but I took Euros Medic to win by stoppage, and he did. I'm gonna do it again. I'm gonna lock it as a prop bet. I'm gonna go two weeks in a row with a prop bet win. Give me Oleksiejczuk by stoppage as my lock of the night.
Next up at UFC 319, and at least as the card is constituted as of the beginning of fight week, the top prelim is a lightweight contest between Bobby Green and Diego Ferreira. Green, the 38-year-old Californian, gonna turn 39 in about 4 weeks. He is 32, 17, and 1 with one no contest overall. He is 13, 12, and 1 with one no contest since joining the UFC out of the dissolution of Strikeforce. If he is not the last Strikeforce guy on roster, I guess it's him and Clay Guida, huh? The last two Strikeforce people on roster. If Miesha Tate is retired, yeah. Sam Alvey's gone, yeah. Wow. Anyway, 13, 12, and 1 with one no contest in the UFC. He's on a 2-fight losing streak. He fought most recently back in March, getting wheel kicked by Mauricio Hufi in the first round. Prior to that, a little over a year ago, he got choked out in the first round by Paddy Pimblett. So Green, he's had a couple of losing streaks over his career. This is arguably the ugliest. He has something to prove, and he's going to have to prove it against Ferreira. 40-year-old Brazilian by way of Texas's Rio Grande Valley is 19-6 overall. He's 10-6 in the UFC. He's coming in off a loss. He fought back in January at UFC 311, where he lost a unanimous decision to Grant Dawson. Prior to that, he had shown a kind of surprising late career turnaround, getting back-to-back knockouts over Michael Johnson and Mateusz Rebecki. So, Ferreira, 40 years old, coming in off a loss. He certainly has plenty to prove here as well. He is favored to get it done. Ferreira is minus 180, Green plus 150 coming back.
Wow.
This one, on a sentimental level, is hard for me to talk about. Like, I like Green. Just I enjoy his fight style, even when it's frustrating sometimes. I think he's a kind of a fun and unique personality on the mic. Just kind of a mix of the expected trash talk and just occasional moments of being kind of open and honest and unguarded. That if you're in MMA media, it's what you crave and what you live for, is for people to like take down the front and like just actually answer your questions frankly. So I like Bobby Green. And then Ferreira, among fighters that I don't know well personally, he's one of the ones that I like the best. He's a Texas guy. He's a longtime teammate of my own coach, Alex Morono. I have a soft spot for anybody that moves to Texas from outside the country. And he's always been a super, super nice guy. So hard for me to talk about this one, but stitching back to our man, Devin Tejada, this is an unk fight. Neither of these guys figured to be doing even this well at this stage in their careers. And Ferreira in particular seemed to be done. What I honestly wasn't sure he was ever going to fight again after losing the 3 straight to Dariush, Gregor Gillespie, and Mateusz Gamrot. I thought, man, maybe we never see him again. Maybe he just sticks to coaching. But then he came back, looked fantastic against Johnson, fantastic against Rebecki. And then in Grant Dawson, he just ran into a much younger, bigger guy that's actually kind of a tough stylistic matchup for him because Dawson is such a good wrestler and grappler himself. Ferreira, despite looking undersized, especially for the modern lightweight division, is a strong guy and a good wrestler, great grappler. I mean, he's obviously not quite at the Jacare, Rodolfo Vieira level, but he's a 2-time Mundials medalist. Like he's a very, very good BJJ fighter. And when he wants to be, he's a high volume striker with, well, obviously over the last couple of years, shockingly good power for a compact little guy. The things that really seem to have trailed off in recent years, like he's found new punching power in recent years. What he's lost is he used to be a builder. Like some of his best wins during his big 6 or 7 fight win streak saw him hold on and just wear out and exhaust other fighters. He can't do that anymore. Against Beneil Dariush, he was exhausted by the end. Gregor Gillespie and Mateusz Gamrot both wore him out by wrestling him, which isn't a good look for a guy in Ferreira's fight style. Regardless of how many he wins or loses from here on out, we're clearly in the last chapter of Diego Ferreira's story as a competitor. With Green, he's coming in off of 2 really bad losses, but he's been capable of losing fights like that his whole career. So it's hard to tell whether he's really in decline or it was just time for him to get blasted and time for him to get run over on the ground like he does every couple of years. Like, yeah, Mauricio Hufi blasted him with a wheel kick, but it's about like what Dustin Poirier did to him 8 or 9 years ago. Green at his best should be able to handle Ferreira. He's a little bit taller, has better reach, and does better as a boxer at the kind of like outer edge of boxing range than Ferreira does. Ferreira needs to get in close to do more of his best work. Green at his best has some of the better footwork and head movement in the division. If he's fighting smart, he should be able to just kind of keep Ferreira on the outside, keep touching him. Green is a good wrestler. Again, underused offensive wrestling most of the time, decent defensive wrestling. I would say he used to be really capable of taking care of himself on the ground against people not named like Islam Makhachev, but I was stunned by how easily Paddy Pimblett wrecked him on the ground. Like we'd seen Green submitted before, we'd seen him out grappled, but to see him out grappled that badly, that early in a fight, not hurt, was kind of an eye opener. I guess maybe those are some of the reasons that Green is the underdog here, but I actually like Green in this one. Yeah, give me Green to win 2 rounds out of 3, just keeping it on the feet, keeping it out of the close phone booth where Ferreira could really mug him with just a big uppercut or hook. He'll have to kind of walk a tightrope on this one, and it's always tough to pick Bobby Green to win a fight where he has to stick to a really specific, precise game plan. But I think Ferreira is just shop-worn enough that Green could even make a mistake or two and not pay for it with his life. So give me Green by decision, but not with a ton of confidence.
Yeah, this fight to me at that point of their career just kind of feels like a card filler to me. It's not one that really moves the needle for either guy. I mean, I guess the winner gets to have the other person's name on their resume the rest of their life, but beating Carlos Diego Ferreira or beating Bobby Green at this point in their careers, to me, that doesn't really do anything now. Bobby Green, he's a good boxer. He fights out of both stances. He still moves pretty well. He's a guy, I've said it before, he kind of baits guys to reach for his head by keeping his hands low so he can counter from weird angles. And he lands from weird angles. He works behind like an up jab. Majority of his work comes off of it. He does like to lead with his rear hand, which is a very unique thing to do, and I like it. It kind of helps him to close the distance too. He's good at like being first, slipping back, and then being third. He can land while backing up, which I like. I'd say when he gets in the box, he's not a bad pocket box because he has pretty good hand speed. I like that he started looking for elbows inside. He was doing some dumb, stupid spinning things against Jim Miller, against a guy that he was easily way outclassed him, but still did some stupid things. We've said this before about him, and I kind of, this is going further down my nose because he's starting to change it. But for the longest time, he would cruise and not show urgency. But he has really stepped up his output lately. He showed some power still against Grant Dawson. I mean, you go back to the Jim Miller fight, he butchered his face. He's always slipping and rolling with punches. That's his thing defensively. I never think it looks good. And also, if you get caught, you get caught clean, which we've been having a lot. So he's been hurt a lot lately, and that's concerning. I mean, he was obviously knocked out by Drew Dober. Roofy just put a all-time highlight reel knockout against him. He was knocked bad against Jalen Turner. Even in shot, I don't want to say shot. Jim Miller, I don't think it's shot, but like Jim Miller hurt him at times in a fight that was a blowout. Tony Ferguson had dropped him, and that has not looked good. So, and it's been happening more and more. So that's really a big concern. Yeah. As far as he's been wrestling more. He's not a bad wrestler. He's been looking for it more and more, which I think is actually smart as he goes later in his career. He's always had good takedown defense and hard to hold down. He showed terrible fight IQ by shooting for a takedown against Paddy Pimblett. And you mentioned him getting submitted quickly. Yeah, I don't know if it's so much on. I think it was poor fight IQ, but I don't know if it's so much on Bobby Green, showing decline in the grappling, or more that Paddy's special. He continues to. I'm not saying you're a doubter of Paddy, but just in general, like he continues to. Close
I was a doubter to the point that I picked Green over him.
I think I picked Green too. Like I thought Green was going to batter him.
Maybe I'm just bitter because Green handed him the fight on the plate. I don't know.
yeah. But Paddy's good. I mean, he just keeps winning. And I'm not saying he's going to beat Taporia, but shit, I've doubted guys before and they just keep winning. I mean, a guy in the main event I've doubted many times, Duplessis. So, Carl Stehego, he's very undersized. Always thought he could have been a featherweight. I mean, I understand he's used that output. And there was a point where he had a peak. He was never a great guy, but he had at one point where you kind of like broke in the top 10, was kind of a peak. And that might have been because of lightweight using his volume and everything. So he's a high volume striker. He's got some night type boxing, good output. He works behind a jab. He really doubles it up, which is really fun to see. He followed up with straight shots on the pipe. He does a good like double jab right combo. He does a lot of body work. He does a lot of kicks. The problem is he eats a lot of shots, and at this point of his career, I don't know if he can. Now he's shown in the past he's a tough SOB, but can he still eat shots from a guy like Bobby Green? I'm not really sure. He will look for takedowns, but he's not a strong wrestler. But he's a fantastic BJJ practitioner. I mean, he's got 7 subs on his record. He showed great ground and pound in his last fight. He has gassed out a few times in the past, and that's when I was really giving up on him. But his cardio looked fantastic against Rebecca. Like it was never better. I'm not very high on either guy at this point in their career. I mean, they're both at the back end of their career. I flip-flopped. But I'm going to go with you, man. We got our consensus upset pick. I'm going to take Bobby Green, too. I still think he's the faster guy. I have zero confidence in my pick, but give me Green by split decision.
The 5-fight main card of UFC 319 begins with a men's flyweight matchup between Tim Elliott and Kai Asakura. Elliott, the 38-year-old Missouri native, is 20-13-1 overall. He is 9-11 across 2 separate stints with the UFC, but he is an even 7-7 since returning as the winner of season 24 of The Ultimate Fighter. His prize for that was a shot at Demetrius Johnson. That did not go great, but again, 7-7 since, and has generally hung around the fringes of contention. He is coming in off a win. He tapped out Sumudarji in the first round at UFC Fight Night Song versus Gutierrez. That's the good news. The bad news is that was 20 months ago, and he's been on the shelf ever since. So Elliott, at age 38, stepping back into the cage here, certainly with something to prove, at least in terms of just having something for the division in general. But you could say the same thing about his opponent, and that guy's a lot younger. Asakura, 31-year-old from Japan, is 21-5 overall. He is 0-1 since joining the UFC as the former Ryzen flyweight champ. He made his UFC debut last December in the headliner of UFC 310. He was shunted directly into a title shot at Alexandre Pantoja. It did not go well as he was choked all the way to sleep in the second round. He's been on the shelf ever since. It's about 8 months later. He steps back in here and still looking for his first victory in the Octagon. He is heavily favored to get it. He is the second biggest favorite on the entire card. Asakura is minus 280, Elliott plus 240. Keith, obviously we talked about Asakura's UFC debut both before and after. We had our feelings about the wisdom of thrusting him directly into a title shot. And I believe I said he was the flyweight champ in Ryzen. He was the bantamweight champ in Ryzen. That was part of the complaint, was him dropping down 10 pounds to a weight class he hadn't fought at in like 7 years, directly into a shot at one of the best fighters in the sport.
I asked Dana about that, and he was just like, "Have you ever seen the Japanese guys? Oh, they can make weight." I'm like, oh, okay. That was your answer.
He was right. So
yeah,
he was right. So if Kai Asakura is flyweight champ a year from now, they'll have a clip of Keith asking that, like in slow motion and black and white, like one of the haters. Tell me, how far, if at all, you came off the Kai Asakura Express after that fight, and who do you think wins it here?
No, to me that fight had nothing to do with Asakura as a guy. It just has to do with my continuance of Pantoja's the freaking man. And I don't know if he's put himself in this position, or if it's like a no-brainer he put himself in this position, or it's just my fandom of him. To me, he's the second greatest flyweight of all time. It's Demetrius Johnson, then it's him. Like he's so freaking good. He's taking up my boy Josh Van next, so that's gonna be tough because you know how much I feel about that guy. But as far as this fight, Asakura, that was obviously a tough ass. Obviously, making weight was always going to be a tough ass, and then obviously beating an all-timer, and then you don't get a warm-up fight in the UFC, you go right to the main event. Like they set him up to fail, and everything was gonna seem like he's gonna seem like a fraud to people who don't know him. Oh, he's fraud, like how he just got to be. And even this is obviously a huge step down in competition, but Tim Elliott is a guy that we've kind of always liked. He's this thing about Tim Elliott is he's so unorthodox that he's hard to like set up a camp for. I mean, he's this he uses movement, kind of guessing game, kind of like a Dominic Cruz style, but he's more like bobbing, weaving, and herking and jerking. He avoids strikes by rolling with punches. He's got good output on the feet. He won't stop all 50 minutes. Even if you're way better than Tim Elliott, he's going to make you work. He'll step in with these big looping hooks. He isn't much of a power puncher, but he's a solid wrestler. He loves catching a kick and taking his opponent down. He also likes to get to the clinch. He'll hit like similar to Dominic Cruz, hit like a knee tap. He's a very funk style wrestler. He won't blast through the hips, but he's more of like a create the scramble. I said it before. He even in one of his fights recently, he hit an old school Peterson. He will chase submissions because of this, but it's so much fun because you never know what position will end up. I mean, he's truly a risk taker, but because of that, he's kind of a low fight IQ where he's looking to try to get a finish and try to win rounds. So they kind of backfires on that. Asakura, I mean, he's a really good athlete. Don't take his fight against Pantoja wrong way. He's a good athlete. He's very big for the weight class. He's a good striker, short, tight strikes. He throws everything hard, really steps into his shots. He's got big power. He can get wild and load up a little bit, and he can get a little loopy when he does. And I see like Elliott coming, bob and weave, and him trying to time him with big shots, kind of leave him to overthrow and set up Elliott to get some takedowns. I love his step and knees. Go back to like the Juan Archuleta fight where he just flattened Archuleta with a knee. Beautiful high kick. He will back straight up, which could set up Elliott's takedowns too. Because he loves the brawl, he will eat some shots. He isn't a wrestler, but he's pretty good at scrambling. And I'd say this, he usually has pretty solid takedown defense. Again, Pantoja has just such great timing. He can get people's backs so easily. If he's on top, he advances to a better position, and he's got really fierce ground and pound. So as far as prediction goes, Elliott is tricky, and he's a tough out just due to his style. Asakura just got ran through by Pantoja. But again, I know I'm sounding like a broken record. I think that speaks more about Pantoja than Asakura. I think Asakura's going to do well against Elliott. I think he's going to stop some takedowns. I think he's going to be too fast on the feet. I think he's going to hurt Elliott several times. Elliott's up there in age, and he hasn't fought a while, so he's one of these guys who could show a big decline really quickly. Elliott is so freaking tough. I think he makes a decision, but I think Asakura finally gets on the win column in the UFC. Give me Asakura by decision.
Yeah, I'm glad that you are putting down Asakura's deflating UFC debut more to Pantoja than to him, because
Pantoja's a man.
Still he really, really is. And Pantoja has a lot of the qualities that you see in the people that have kind of plagued Asakura. You gave the perfect scouting report on Tim Elliott. Exciting sometimes at the expense of his own best interests and fight IQ. It's hard not to love his kind of old school go for broke style of grappling, where it really is submission over position, submission over defense. I mean, he's gotten tapped out a lot of times. But here's the thing. He wins and loses. Again, he's below 500 in the UFC. He's an even 500 in the UFC since being back this time. But you have to go back a ways for the last time somebody really looked good against him, even beating him. Like he makes his fights weird and ugly. I'll always love him for just cheerfully admitting that he'll cheat until somebody takes a point from him. He's like, why wouldn't I grab the fence and grab the gloves?
There's no penalty for it. Go do it.
Exactly. And whether you think of him as this like devious, like Looney Tunes villain twirling his mustache, or somebody that's just basically doing the MMA equivalent of civil disobedience, just like breaking the rules to highlight the flaws in the system, like you gotta love him for it. Asakura, I'm still excited to have him in the UFC. But yeah, Pantoja is a combination of one of the three best fighters on the planet right now, probably no worse than the fifth, and specifically kind of a tough matchup for Asakura, because you look at the people that have beaten Asakura really ever, like within the last...
Hold on. He's kind of a tough stylist matchup for everybody.
Yes,
but okay.
But like specifically, he does things that other people have done to Asakura, only he's even better at it. Like you look at Asakura's losses in Ryzen. Manel Kape and Kyoji Horiguchi are both huge hitters for the lower weight classes, and they both clocked him. And in both cases, it wasn't an accumulation of damage where they just boxed him up. Each of them stunned him with a big shot, and then it rolled downhill from there. I give him a pass for his last loss to Hiromasa Ogikubo. It's charming when Japan still does Grand Prix where you have to fight twice in one night, but ultimately, if Asakura and Ogikubo fight 10 times fresh, Asakura wins 9.5 out of 10. But, Ogikubo's a good wrestler. Takedown defense is one of Asakura's relative weak spots. I think Asakura was more tired from his semifinal, and yeah, Ogikubo just kind of bullied him for 3 rounds. I don't worry about that one. But I look at the things that have typically plagued Asakura, and Elliott none of them really play into Elliott's game. Like you mentioned, he's not a huge hitter. Like he throws good volume, he throws unorthodox stuff, but you can't picture him just dropping Asakura like a sack of potatoes with like one punch like Kape did. And while Elliott is a good wrestler in his own way, you mentioned it, it's pure funk. His wrestling is designed to start a scramble. Like I think if Elliott shot a clean double leg on someone and landed in their full guard, he would get back up again and start rolling around. Yeah. No, not this. Like, it's the opposite of what Ogikubo did to him. So if nothing else, regardless of who wins, I think this is going to be a wild and fun fight because Asakura is willing and able to get into that kind of fight. That's the only kind of fight that Elliott knows how to have. But Asakura is younger, bigger. If they get into a bunch of scrambles, I think even though Elliott is the guy that has a ton of submissions on his record and Asakura has relatively fewer, Asakura can absolutely catch Elliott doing something simple, silly in transition and grab a guillotine or take his back and all of a sudden either at least take a round off him or put the fight away right there. Or Asakura could just catch him in the middle of a Peterson roll and just give him 5 hammer fists while his head is stuck on the ground and turn the fight on his head that way. I think Asakura is the guy that even at Elliott's best would have been pretty well equipped to punish his reckless tendencies. And given that Elliott is a couple months from his 39th birthday and hasn't fought in a year and a half, there's no guarantee he's even as good as he was the last time we saw him. So give me Asakura here in a pretty lopsided decision. The endless parade of MMA unks continues at UFC 319 as 41-year-old Jared Cannonier squares off against 38-year-old Michael Venom Page. Cannonier, the Texan by way of Alaska, by way of Arizona, is 18-8 overall. He is 11-8 in the UFC. Kind of like Jessica Andrade, he has melted his way down across 3 separate divisions. He joined the UFC as a short, stocky heavyweight, had a brief stay at 205, and finally found his home at 185 pounds, where he has fought his way into title shots and kind of perennial contention even past his 40th birthday. He's coming in off a win. He fought most recently back in February in the headliner of UFC Fight Night 251, where he kind of swarmed on and finished Gregory Rodriguez in the main event rounds. That snapped a 2-fight losing streak for him, and it reaffirmed his place as the premier gatekeeper to the top 5 or even directly to title shots in that division. I mean, the last 2 guys to beat him, Nasruddin Imavov and Caio Borralho, could easily fight for a title, within the next year. If he wants to keep that status, he's going to need to show out against Page. 38-year-old Englishman is 23-3 overall. He is 2-1 since joining the UFC as a longtime standout and one-time or multiple-time title challenger in Bellator. He's coming in off a win. He fought most recently at UFC Fight Night Adesanya versus Imavov back in February, where he won a unanimous decision over Shara Bullet. That allowed him to bounce back from his lone UFC loss against Ian Gary last June. So he's looking to string together 2 straight here, prove that he has something more to offer the UFC than just the occasional highlight for the reel, and he is favored to get it done. Page is minus 180. Cannonier plus 150 is your underdog. Keith, it is an old man striker's delight. Who gets delighted at night's end?
It's funny. So I was watching the fights last night, and I think DC said, when Jared Cannonier was cornering somebody, I can't remember who he was cornering, but at one point he said, as Cannonier was walking by him, he said, like, wait to see what I'm going to do to Michael Page next week, like, sending a message. I'm like, wow, that's so not Jared Cannonier. And it's like, that makes me want to pick him. Like, someone's like that confident, like he sees something. As far as the fight, this is intriguing, and this definitely has title implications if especially if Michael Page wins. I mean, Michael Page is the guy that the UFC wants to be really good. He could be polar opposites. Jared Cannonier is the guy that the UFC wants to lose. Cannonier, he's a guy he can fights out of both stances. He likes to march forward, marching down his opponent. Yes, still at his age, he still has decent hand speed. I wouldn't say what it was in his prime, but he showed he can still box. He isn't as explosive as he used to be. He does work behind a good jab. His boxing has become more technical and tight. He's got a nice slip right hand. He has some power in his left hand still. He has those massive legs, which helps him generate power. He also sits on his punches really well. His kicks to the leg might be the best part of the game. I mean, they are just thudding and hard. He can close the distance and grind in the clinch. He can look for takedowns. He isn't this blast to the hips kind of guy. He's more just going to grab a leg, snatch single kind of thing, get the takedown just by being like insanely strong. His defensive wrestling, though, I don't think it will matter against Michael Page. Has been really inconsistent. He looks if he gets on top, he has some really scary ground and pound. I've said it before. I've compared it to Derek Klose the past, like what he did like Jack or Manson. His durability is a concern. His chin is starting to get cracked, even in like wins. He's been hurt a bunch. Even like Gregor Rodriguez in that win, he was hurt a bunch in that fight. But he has a good gas tank. 15 minutes is no problem for him. Michael Page really amazes me. And what amazes me about him is first of all, he's 38. So I always got to remind myself, this is 38. And the reason why I have to remind myself that he's 38 is the way he fights. He is such an incredible athlete. To still be doing that at 38 is so surprising. That being said, I'm 38, he could be in decline overnight, and we could see that in this fight. Now he's looked really good in his last fight in the UFC, he looked really good. Now he's a long and lengthy guy. He's a sensational striker. He looks so good against Sharon Magomedov. He's a sniper. He sits back and then suddenly he springs at his opponents with shots. I will leave this in. If Michael Page turns into what I talked about earlier, where a guy fights and he's getting knocked out every fight, he's in his shell, I don't care. I'm going to leave this note in there forever. His flying knee of Cyborg Santos is one of the coolest. I say coolest because that's not the Santos, but one of the devastating things I've ever seen in MMA. I mean, that happened like a decade ago, but I've never taken that out of my notes when it comes to Michael Page. Now he hangs his hands low, which is obviously he kind of leaves his chin open, but he uses it as bait. He kind of extends his head out, trying to get you to chase after his chin, and then he slips and he counters you to catch you coming in as you lunge. And also because the way he does it, he hides his hands. He almost puts his hands behind his back, which makes it difficult to see the shots coming. Against Sharabullet, he was freezing him with feints. He's got a lot of variety in striking. He hides his right hand so well because of that bladed stance. His step back counter right is one of his best punch. One issue I have with Page with his striking is he's almost always one punch and done. He hardly ever throws combos. And that's the kind of thing, same thing I said about Stephen Thompson. It's that point karate style. It's just so ingrained of to land punt, wait for a referee to give you a point, and then read back to the center. And I think that's the negative they have. He hasn't, if he ever threw some more combinations, I think he'd have a lot more knockouts. He doesn't care about how the fight is going as far as output. He'll love a slow striking battle where he can just pick apart from the distance, not really get hit. That's a problem. Now he needs to up his output, I think. Press the action, something I'd like to see. He does have huge power in both of his hands. He likes some spinning attacks. His spinning elbow against Kevin Holland was incredible. He does get kind of flashy, which gives an opponent a chance to counter or get a takedown. He has a good kicking game, some of the best switch kicks you've ever seen. Mean kicks leg. I mean, I think he break Goto Yamuchi's leg with a calf kick, like seconds. It was broken, right?
It was some sort of damage that put Yamuchi on the shelf. Yeah. He wrecked him.
Yeah, and it was quick. He sets up his punches behind his kicks instead of the other way around, which I like. Now he never wrestles. He's not going to look for a takedown. Even if he's getting his ass kicked to the feet, he's not going to look for a takedown. No, he won't. I'm thinking about times I've seen him wrestle, and it's like, no, it's more defensive wrestling where then he ends up on top. But his defensive wrestling it's coming along. It's still bad. He did show some improved takedown defense against Logan Storley, but Ian Machado Gary was taking him out with ease. His submission defense is underrated, though. He's hard to submit, and his get-up game has been inconsistent. He still struggles to get back to his feet, but sometimes he uses the cage really well. So as far as this fight goes, I think this fight will be a blowout. The problem is it's going to be a blowout one way or the other. And the problem is I don't know which way that's going to go. I can either see Cannonier closing the distance, getting the fight to the ground, and pounding the shit out of Page, getting him on, just being too big. Or I can see Page just styling on Cannonier from distance, being too fast for him. I'm going to go with the Page styles on him. I think he uses movement. If this was a couple years ago where I believe Jared Cannonier was still in his prime. Like when the Jared Cannonier who fought Jack Hermanson, I think I would have taken Cannonier. I just think he's a little too slow now, and I think Page will hit him with a shot. I think Page will let him off the hook. I think he won't have enough output to finish him, and I think we might actually have a pretty boring decision on his. Give me Michael Page by boring decision.
I mean, this won't be a full-blown story time with Ben or anything, but I definitely have.
Good, Ben.
Well, I definitely have a soft spot in my heart for Michael Page, and I mentioned a couple fights ago how charming I've always found it that Bobby Green will just at random times just drop the trash talk and just say really honest things, either in one-on-one interviews or just across the desk at a press conference. When I joined Sherdog back in the beginning of 2018, one of my first jobs on the beat was interviewing Bellator fighters. Just every card, we'd get the menu.
Yeah.
And being new and kind of eager to prove myself, I tried to challenge myself. I always picked the fighters that I figured would be the hardest interview, either because they had a persona or because they were new and nobody knew who the hell they were. So I picked like Dylan Dennis. I picked like Christina Williams when she was like 2-1. I picked Michael Page. So Dennis was an awkward interview. Like he was actually a super nice guy, and I just sort of like killed him with kindness. Like I gave him like an unexpected compliment early on, and he just started stuttering. And for the rest of the interview, he'd have to keep reminding himself to try to talk like Conor McGregor. He would just have kind of a regular interview, and they'd be like, "Yeah, but I'm the best, and I own Bellator." Like, dude,
it's funny. Awkward. I interviewed him once. Sorry to interrupt you. I had a similar thing, and it was one of those, not a scrum. It was one where they had a whole bunch of people, and they had like a time limit, like, all right, what hour? And they had like 20 people. I was
like
in
the
line
car
for
wash
Dylan.
Type thing. Yeah.
I was in the line for Dylan Dennis, and I was the very first person. And I think it was because it was the first thing. It was like 9:00 in the morning. He wasn't ready, and everyone's like, that was such a different interview. He didn't put his personality on yet, and it was so like I like the guy. Anyways, continue. I know you're saying I've interviewed Michael Page too, and he. Yeah. What a fucking he's such a cool dude. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah. Well, and like what I said to Dennis was, because he was like, I'm the best grappler. I'm like, well, actually, you're the guy that I show your matches to when I'm talking to an MMA fan that thinks jiu-jitsu is boring. I show him Dylan Dennis competition. He's like, oh, well, thanks, man. I really appreciate that. And it's completely disarmed him. But with Page, I was expecting a Dennis McGregor type personality, and he was confident, but he was so humble because I asked him straight on. I'm like, what would you say? And this is before he's fighting like David Rickles coming up a weight class. I'm like, what would you say to the people that say that, yeah, you're only 12-0 because Bellator is sheltering you? Like, he's like, well, of course they are. Why wouldn't they? He said, I was a kickboxer. I started training MMA, and I had my first MMA fight after I'd only been training for 6 months. I knocked the guy out in a minute, but it wasn't because I was a good fighter. It was because I was fighting a guy that wasn't ready for me yet. He's like, I come from the boxing background. Yeah. He's like, think of how much less hype I'd have around me right now if I was 11-1 instead of 12-0 because they matched me against the wrong guy right out of the gate. He's like, he says, of course they're guarding me. He says, I can be a star. Like I am a star. It was so disarmingly honest of him. And
he's a cool dude.
And he's kept it up, when he joined the UFC and everyone was like, oh, we need to see Michael Page versus Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. He's like, well, book it if you want, but understand it'll probably be a boring fight. Like,
yeah,
who is that honest?
It would be. It would. I could see them. They'd like one guy would let a kick, and they'd high five each other, and it would be so.
Or no guy would land a kick.
Yeah,
it would just look like two guys with broken controllers at their Xbox. Like, anyway, everything you said about Page is correct, and he has been, kind of gradually improving. Kind of like Stephen Thompson. He was never going to have good takedown defense, but he's worked to make it better and worked, on his get-up game. I think part of the reason, you mentioned a big reason that people like he and Wonderboy throw one shot at a time. I think another reason that they do that, or at least another benefit of that, is they don't get caught with counters nearly as often. Because, you know, when you kind of plant and throw a 3-piece punch combination and finish it off with a kick, you're in the danger zone just that much longer. I think that's part of their mystique. Like, oh, nobody can lay a finger on them. Part of it is that they have a ton of reach on you. They pop in, throw one kick, and then bounce back out. For me, it really does come down to how shop-worn Cannonier is, to kind of circle back around to actually picking this fight. You nailed it right off the bat, and you nailed it further when you said that if Cannonier was even the version of himself at 38, like 2.5 years ago, I feel better about him against Page. He's not a great takedown artist, but he probably would have been good enough to get Page down, or at least by pressing that issue, like kind of short circuit a lot of Page's kicking game, which definitely needs room to work. Oh yeah. One last anecdote time with Ben. And I've told you this before, I'm sure. So Cyborg Santos came down here after he retired from competition and set up, shoot a box Team Cyborg down here in Houston. So I used to see him at Fury events all the time. He's still got that dent in his head. Like every time I see him, every time I would see him, it would just be so hard for me to like look him in the eye and talk to him instead of like looking up at the thing on his head. It is such a divot. Like if you caught him like in bed, you could like tee up a golf ball on that thing. It's like it's. I don't know. How book smart he was before that, but that had to have knocked a couple IQ points off. That is one of the most devastating flying knees ever. Whoa. Man, I always forget about that one when I think about the greatest flying knees in MMA history, but it's based on the results. Oh my goodness. Anyway, I got Page by decision here as well. And I believe you said that it may not be the most compelling fight. I'm with you on that as well. Like Cannonier's turned into a guy where his fights are mostly exciting if the other guy starts styling on him, and Page might, but it might not be in. Like, I think this is going to be a fight where Page is a step ahead the whole time, but you never really have any feeling that the fight's close to being finished. It'll be one of those. Third from the top at UFC 319 is a welterweight matchup between Jeff Neal and Carlos Prates. Neal, the 34-year-old Texan, is 16-6 overall. He is 8-4 since joining the UFC out of Season 1 of Dana White's Contender Series. He's coming in off a win. He fought most recently at UFC 308 last October, where his fight with Rafael Dos Anjos was short-circuited in like 90 seconds when Dos Anjos was hobbled by a knee injury. So not the way anybody would have drawn it up, but that did get him back into the win column after back-to-back losses to Shavkat Rakhmonov and Ian Gary. So he's looking for a second straight win here, preferably without any asterisk next to it. And he's got quite the challenge ahead of him in the form of Prates. 31-year-old Brazilian is 21-7 overall. He is 4-1 since joining the UFC out of Season 7 of the Contender Series. He's coming in off a loss. He won on the Contender Series, won his first 4 fights in the UFC, all by knockout within the first 2 rounds, just rocketing into the welterweight top 10 in a way we've not really seen many fighters do in the last decade. That earned him a date with Ian Gary in April in the headliner of UFC on ESPN 66, where he dropped a unanimous decision to the Irishman. So he's looking to get back in the win column here. He is comfortably favored to do so as one of the biggest favorites on the card. Prates is -250. Neal is +210. Keith, I like this fight a lot. I don't know how you feel about it, but I'm about to find out because I'm flipping it to you. What do you think of the fight? Who gets it done?
Yeah, I mean, how can you not? Like 2 of the most violent guys in the division, 2 guys that can really hit hard. Yeah, I mean, I love this fight. I'll start with Jeff Neal. I mean, Jeff Neal he's a really good athlete. He's always doesn't have credit how well he moves. He moves really well, good footwork. He has very quick hands. Sometimes he'll be a little gun shy, and I can see that being against Prates, being how how sharp of a striker Protez is. So he needs to let his hands go. When he does, he's explosive. He's accurate. He throws straight shots down the pike. His left hand can connect. Is deadly. He's the person who gave Shafkat Rahman. Well, Ian Gary gave Shafkat a really good fight, but other than Gary, he's the next guy who gave Shafkat a good fight. That's the ceiling of Jeff Neal. I like that he'll lead with his like rear hand, like it'll be the southpaw stance. He'll lead with the straight left. It'll double up at times. He loves to step in and he'll throw an uppercut, which is something we don't see. He has really, really big power. He throws hard body kicks, crushing head kicks, which he'll throw after he counters a strike, which is so unique. He's a better wrestler than he gets credited with. I mean, he got takedowns against Nico Price, Neil Magny, Vicente Luque. If he's on top, crushing ground and pound. And it's also very hard to take down. There's not a lot of big holes in Jeff Neal's game, other than maybe lack of output at times. Protez is also a very good striker. He can fight on both stance, a little, very relaxed, very poised, flows. He can be a little plotting, like we saw him that against Michal and Gary. I think he was just trying to get inside a little bit, and he struggled with that. But when he has his own distance, he let his hands go. He's sharp. He's going to keep his opponent on the end of the punches. He will let it hang his hands low and then suddenly just explode forward. He could also cruise at times. He spends a lot of time picking up reads, giving rounds away, very like Anderson Silva like. 15-minute fight is a little dangerous to do. When he throws single strikes, sometimes he's looking to get this walk-off knockout, which is a concerning sight to just letting it come to him. He kind of loads up a little too much for my liking. He also refused to match his opponent's output, which is concerning. But what he does, man, the dude's a sniper when he lets his hands go. He's got a great jab, a great straight right. He's got huge power. He's got 16 TKOs. He KO'd Li Jingliang, which is awesome. He nothing against Li Jingliang, just mean the only person to do that. He walked off Neil Magny, even in a fight where he was clearly outclassed against Ian Machado-Gary. He even hurt him and almost got a knockout late in that fight. So obviously he always has power. He's got a big kicking game, good teep kicks up the middle, hard calf kicks. He's got a quick high kick. I like his step in knees. Go back to like the Charlie Racky fight. His step in knee was brutal. He avoids strikes with rolling with punches, which I'm not a fan of. He also doesn't wrestle, and his takedown defense is consistent. But he is hard to hold down. So this is a really fun fight. I don't like the line. I think both guys are really good. I wouldn't be surprised if Neal comes out and wrestles and gets takedowns. I think both guys will have their moments. And it's so weird for me to say this, but Protez, I think, has the power advantage, which is so weird to say against somebody who's fighting Jeff Neal. And I keep thinking of like a teep kip coming up the middle and hurting Neal in the kind of like unconventional type way. So I think he catches him a blow. I'm going to say Protez puts him out. Again, I think the line should be closer. Neal could easily win this fight, but give me Protez by second round TKO.
All right. I'm going to tell two quick things about Jeff Neal. One, you've definitely heard before. The other is just kind of me thinking out loud. You probably haven't. Item number one about Jeff Neal that you've definitely heard me say. Ahead of one of the UFC cards here in Houston, there was an open workout for press and then for fans at like one of the local Renzo Gracie schools, and a bunch of Fortis guys came down. And like, I'm not saying like I'm a tough guy or any kind of like hardened warrior myself, but like I've been around a lot of gyms, and I'm not a flincher, but Jeff Neal and Uriah Hall holding pads for each other from like 3 feet away from me was terrifying. Like I was flinching over and over again. I'm like, what is the matter with me? And it's just that it was so loud and so kinetic, just like the air from the kicks was like pushing my head back. I'll never forget that, because again, I've been around a decent share of professional fighters in like even just these open workout scenarios, and that was just such an eye opener. just two of the harder hitting guys in kind of like those middle weight classes, just going to town. Yeah, I'll never forget that. Another thing, like 2021, and I'm sure you'll remember this, like the day after Thanksgiving, like the morning after Thanksgiving, like early Friday morning after Thanksgiving, 2021, Geoff Neal got arrested. It was like 5 a.m. Yeah. He was not actively drunk, but clearly had been drinking, like hungover, had a gun in his car. And while he did have a permit for the gun, nobody has a permit to have a gun under the seat of their car. So,
or
when
while
that
you're
happened,
drinking.
yeah, when that happened, I was like, shit, I've seen the story that starts with this chapter too many times. Like, it goes from that to 6 months later, there's something else. 12 months later, like someone's getting a restraining order against them. Like you as an MMA analyst and a police officer, you know that story. Can I say just how encouraging it is that we have not heard peep one about Geoff Neal's personal life since then? Like, I feel like I need to say that and like extol it and praise it, because we never get the story playing out that way. It's like amazing. You know, Geoff Neal had a bad weekend. It didn't define his personal or professional life.
But in fairness, like when we have moments like that, like John Jones got in trouble with the law once, never heard about him in trouble ever again. Conor McGregor got in trouble once, never heard about it again. Yeah. Right? That's the norm, right?
Exactly. Yeah. You know, I mean, like War Machine hasn't committed a crime in like 10 years.
Well, yeah, neither has Lee Murray. Yeah.
I mean, it may technically be against the law for him to like trade brownies for cigarettes in the commissary. I don't know. No. So hats off to Geoff Neal. This sounds corny to say, but on some level, even if you weren't still in the UFC, and oh, by the way, he still is, and he's won more than he's lost since then, he's winning in the way, you know, that matters, that will matter once he's out of the sport. So good on Geoff Neal. Having said all that, he can win this. And when I pick a Geoff Neal fight wrong, I mean, I am really, really dead freaking wrong about it. Interestingly, of the people that are this big a favorite over Neal, this is one of the more favorable matchups. This is somebody that's gonna strike with him for 3 full rounds. But I think Prates he's effective at a greater variety of ranges. His durability might be a little better at this point. It's not to the extent of, say, the Meerschaert versus Oleksiejczuk fight or anything, but I feel as though Prates has the edge here, and whether it's close or not close is really dependent on how hard Prates steps on the gas. Give me Prates to win a fun decision here. Like, my ideal outcome would just be a real fun fight. And if we get a real fun fight, like if Neal just clocks Prates early and we're like, oh shit, we got a real fight here, and it becomes like a 29-28 thing or even a splitter, I mean, this is probably your fight of the night. But if Prates commits to throwing enough volume, forcing the issue on Neal, I do think he wins this one going away. I have Prates by decision. And again, whether it's a close one or a dominant one, I think really is up to Prates more than Neal. That brings us to the co-main event of UFC 319, a featherweight matchup between undefeated contender Lerone Murphy and high-profile free agent acquisition Aaron Pico. Murphy, the 34-year-old Englishman, is 16-0-1 as a professional. He is 8-0-1 in the UFC. After fighting to a split draw with Zubaira Tukhugov in his UFC debut 6 years ago, he has rattled off wins over Ricardo Ramos, Douglas Silva de Andrade, Makwan Amirkhani, Gabriel Santos, Josh Kulabau, Edson Barboza, Dan Ige, And in his most recent appearance back in April, Josh Emmett, over whom he took a unanimous decision in the headliner of UFC on ESPN 65. Murphy looking for his 9th straight win, looking to bolster his case for a title shot even further. And in order to get that done, he will have to spoil the UFC debut of Pico. 28-year-old Californian is 13-4 overall. This will be his UFC debut. Aaron Pico, arguably the most highly touted prospect in MMA history when Bellator signed him at age 19, right after winning. I can't remember which it was, but it was a pretty major freestyle wrestling age restricted.
Yeah, it was the U17 Worlds.
U17. Okay.
Yeah.
And he said, I'm not going to college. I want to be a fighter. When you're a 19-year-old and you don't even have an amateur fight yet, and the second biggest promotion in the world is holding a press conference to announce your signing, the expectations are there. Since then, he has occasionally met them, more often fallen short, but he exited Bellator on a 3-fight win streak. He fought most recently all the way back last February, knocking out Henry Corrales late in the first round. He was signed by the UFC. He was supposed to debut against Movsar Evloev last month. Evloev fell off that card, and Pico now steps in on fairly short notice in the co-headliner of one of the UFC's biggest cards of the year. Keith, your favorite is minus 150. Your underdog plus 115. Who are they?
I'm going to guess that Murphy's the favorite.
Keith takes his first loss of the UFC 319 preview as Aaron Pico is minus 115, Laron Murphy plus 115. And I don't know who made this line, but I'm flabbergasted. I assumed Murphy would be a comfortable favorite over Pico, and frankly, I don't get it. Here's the thing. Pico on Raw Tools is among the more talented fighters ever to come through MMA. He is an unbelievable athlete, just fluid, explosive, extremely strong, and then has skills. Obviously, he was he was a U17 world champ as a teenager. That it's not quite the same as U21, where it's mapped pretty well to how you're going to do in the next Olympics, but it's a big deal. And then on top of that, he's been boxing as long as he's been wrestling. Like, at his best, he has one of the more impressive offensive arsenals in the sport. He's one of the hardest hitters in the featherweight division, and actually throws in combination, actually works the body. Again, when Pico is on, he's still just shockingly good. But it all just seems to fall apart for him. You look at his losses, and all of his losses have just seen him get destroyed just by making a mistake, having a single lapse on defense. And the one thing he doesn't seem to have is durability, because he gets hit once or twice squarely, even by somebody that's not really known for great power, and he's just toast. Obviously, there was a bunch of kind of like gleeful laughter when he got guillotined in 20 seconds in his MMA debut. But even if you give him a mulligan on that, just Henry Corrales nuked him with one punch. He was fighting a great fight against Adam Borix, just like actually was wrestling, took Borix down like what felt like 12 times in the first round, and just was doing it smart, just doing take him down, don't let him get his tricky guard going, just take him down, whack him a couple times, let him up, take him down. He was fighting super smart. And then second round, he takes one shot from a little too far outside. Borix catches him with a knee. He's toast. Like, he's rocked, and there's just no recoverability. Borix is all over him, and it's over. Pico is still just 27 years old, I'm not even sure he's a busted prospect anymore. Like this may just be who Aaron Pico is, a devastating offensive fighter that is like the Death Star. If somebody can hit that little exhaust port, he's going to blow up. That spells some good and some bad things, because Murphy's game is not built around that. Like, Murphy is the definition of just a methodical, disciplined, to the extent of featherweight can be plodding, kind of plodding fighter. You made the perfect comparison. He is kind of featherweight Leon Edwards. He's a good athlete, but his fight style doesn't actually require it. You know, he's a kickboxer who throws well in combination. He's a good wrestler when he decides to be, but his fight style is built around winning rounds and not making mistakes. And thus far, it's been good enough. That's the only thing that makes this fight tricky to call, is if Murphy was less composed and more reckless, but as a result, more offensively dangerous, it'd be like, okay, let's see how long it goes before he cracks Pico and it goes the way that we always see it go. But if Murphy just decides to fight a super buttoned up Laurent Murphy fight, does Pico stay patient and find ways to get through his defenses? Does Pico get frustrated and then do something dumb? That's my suspense here. Pico's best route to victory here is to take Murphy down. Murphy's is a decent wrestler. Pico's a great wrestler. Pico could hurt him on the feet, but again, Murphy's just, he's disciplined. He's just going to catch Pico cleanly with counters, and Pico's chin and defense being what they are, he walks into one, like right cross with a little bit of zip on it, and Pico's stumbling, and the fight's over 20 seconds later. Pico's another guy that, like, I have a place in my heart for him because I interviewed him real early on. It's hard for me to hate anybody that gives of their time generously. But again, I don't think Pico's even a busted prospect anymore. I think Aaron Pico is just Aaron Pico. Given the right 3 opponents in a row, he could destroy 3 people, make it well into the UFC top 10. But this might be as close as he ever gets to a UFC title shot right now. Because like I said in the intro, if he dusts Laurent Murphy in the first round and says a few clever things, and people have been watching the embedded of him riding his horses around Central California all week to get a little bit of buzz, he could jump the line on a lot of people. If he loses to Laurent Murphy, I don't think he ever gets this close again, and I'm picking him to lose to Laurent Murphy. Yeah, give me Murphy to just kind of win all 3 rounds in a actually ho-hum manner. We'll be waiting for Pico to either explode or implode, and I don't think either's going to happen. Like, trust Laurent Murphy to pull a boring fight out of Aaron Pico.
Yeah, this why is this fight the co-main? I don't really know. I think you put a lot of pressure on Aaron Pico. UFC's putting all the ducks in a row for this guy, and I really want Aaron Pico to be good. I do. Like, I'm a fan of him. I've interviewed him too. He's a cool dude, very humble guy for someone who has incredible accolades and everything. But he's got a tough task at his UFC debut. Laurent Murphy is a really good fighter. He's a really good athlete. He's very technical. He fights out of both stances, moves well, moves a lot, which I think will frustrate Pico. When he's moving forward, he pressures well. He's a good striker, technical, sets up his strikes with volume well, sets up his strikes with feints well, nice volume. He will avoid strikes with shoulder rolling and pillaring, which I'm not a fan of. The pillaring should open up opportunities for Pico to wrestle if he wants. He worked behind a crisp jab. He'll double up the jab. He is accurate. He holds back his power and just touches to his opening. Does really good body work, something I think he's going to do to Pico. Extremely intelligent. I always go back to his knockout of Americani. Excuse me, I can't think of his first name. Makwan Americani, where he feints a punch to a knee. He feinted the punch to get the guy to duck down, and he came out with the knee. That's such a beautiful thing. He's got a good kicking game, a lot of kicks. He's a good offensive wrestler. If he gets the fight to the ground, nice top game, good ground and pound. He destroyed Ricardo Ramos with ground and pound. Not the best defensive wrestler, And some of that, I'll go back to him pillaring because it leaves him open to take down, but he's good to get back to his feet. All right, move on to Aaron Pico. So obviously, I'm a big fan of Aaron Pico. I'm a fan of him as a person, his style. I'm very biased to wrestle boxers. Not that I was anywhere near Aaron Pico's level of fighting, but when I fought out, I was a wrestle boxer. That was my style. Crazy athleticism. The problem is his striking being good and dangerous. I actually think holds him back as a fighter because he shouldn't be what his go-to is, but he just loves he said it before. There's nothing like knocking people out. Well, he's got huge power. I mean, he's got 9 TKOs. He's a good boxer. He sets up his shots well with feints, works behind a good jab. He tends to kind of lunge into his punches a little bit too much, very like Yoel Romero type. He does, like I said, he has huge power when he connects. He's got power in both hands. He's been adding kicks a lot to his game. Good calf kicks, good quick high kick. We saw that a lot in this last fight. He fights behind high guard defense, so he's keeping everything up. Needs to do more head movement instead of that. He's an elite wrestler. Like, I don't think people realize how good his freestyle wrestling is. The problem is he doesn't use it enough, and he has a transition well too much. Let me back up. He can close a distance and work. Actually, something I think would actually work pretty good against Lerone Murphy. Instead of shooting on the hips and everything, actually close the distance, get to the clinch, wear on him there. Dirty box, hit him with his shoulders, stomp on his foot, uppercut, make it kind of boring. Pico's not gonna. It would work well. He's not gonna do it. He's go for broke. He wants to connect. He wants to get. I mean, you're gonna put it in a crowd co-main event. He wants to connect in a big left hook and end the fight and then do something crazy athletic as a celebration. He won't do that. Pico could be a Habib. I'm not that style. I'm not saying exactly him, but like take him down, hold people down, work them, grind them. He doesn't want to be that. He wants to be Justin Gaethje, and that's his problem. That's his problem. There's only one Justin Gaethje, But when I talk about his wrestling, he was 19 years old. Should have been a freshman in college. He was 1 point away from being in the Olympics. Like, I don't think people realize like how good his wrestling was. He was 19. He was going against a guy who was like 26, 27. He comes from a freestyle. Like, he obviously wrestled folk style when he was in high school, but there was a big controversy with him signing a deal with Nike and everything, so he couldn't. I think it was Nike, right, or Reebok.
I can't remember.
I mean, no, it would have been Reebok for wrestling. Either Nike or maybe it was Asics or something like that. But he signed a contract, so he couldn't do it. But this is before NILs and all that shit. He couldn't wrestle in college, so he went to freestyle. Really quickly went right to MMA. Like, he was young when he came to MMA. He could have. I mean, he went to make the money. He could still be competing. And I want to correct you. Said he was 27. He's actually 28, and he's turning and he's turning 29 soon next month. But like, this would be when he'd be winning world championships of wrestling. You know how I feel about wrestlers coming MMA. It's like two-edged sword for me. Like, I want the top wrestlers to come MMA because I think it'd be great for MMA, but then I want us to be the best in the world at wrestling, so I don't want them to come. So it's like, coming to MMA is the hard route. Wrestling would have been easier route. I'm not talking about the wrestling room. It's the hardest room in the world. It's harder than MMA room, but I mean, just like his success, not getting punched in the face, and he do well. But because of his lack of folk style and more freestyle, I think he needs to improve his control. Like, folk style is taking down control. Freestyle really isn't a lot of control. So I think that's something we see in translation in MMA, why guys get up on him. So as far as the prediction goes, let me back up. Let's go to Movsar Evloev. He was supposed to fight Movsar Evloev. I actually think this is a harder stylistic matchup than Movsar Evloev would have been, even though Evloev is higher. Even though higher in the rankings, he obviously is undefeated too. I've always been a fan of Pico.
It would be hard to picture Evloev knocking Pico out. It's easier to picture Murphy doing it if Pico slips.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, or just point him, something like that. Like, Evloev's going to try to wrestle Pico. Yeah, cool. Let's do that. Like, if he is a straight wrestling match, Evloev doesn't have a fucking prayer against Pico. Now it's MMA, it's different, it's punching, it's cage work. I understand that. But straight wrestling match, not a prayer.
Yeah.
Against Murphy, I've always been a fan of Pico. I love his athleticism. He has the power. And you know what? I don't think what gets talked enough is how unlucky his career has been in MMA. He has 4 losses. Honestly, all 4 of them could be wins. And what I mean by that is, like, you go through his record. Well, his first loss, he was like a freaking baby, no experience, took a fight way too quick, took on Zach Freeman, getting caught in a guillotine 24 seconds. You run that fight back a year later, and he would have knocked Zach Freeman into the stands. And again, I'm not saying like just ignore that. I'm just saying like oh, it could be undefeated. He got 4 losses. Work with me a little bit, okay? All right. Mm-hmm. Henry Krause. He was teeing off on Henry Krause, was landing big shots, and then Krause countered with another one of his own. He was I'm about to knock this guy out, and said he got caught, and then he avenged that fight. Adam Burks, he was winning. And then Burks threw a Hail Mary flying knee and knocked him out. And then Jeremy Kennedy, he like, was it his collarbone? He dislocated his shoulder like immediately. He was fighting one-handed the rest of the whole fight. So
and they were trying to like quietly like pop his shoulder back in between. Yeah. Yep.
No, so it doesn't sound like it. Now again, I'm not saying that gives him a pass. So you go be like, oh, he's what are you talking about? You give an excuse for 4 fights. I get it. I know I'm shilling for him for a second. I said all that. I think if he wanted to win this match, I think he should wrestle a lot. And he might. And if he does, I actually think he might gas himself out trying to get takedowns and an ability to keep Murphy down. I see Murphy jabbing him. I see Murphy hit him to the body, maybe some teep kicks up the middle. I don't think Murphy engages him in a pocket, like opening up, slugging it out. Like if we have like a great fight where it's deep in the third and Pico points to the ground, like let's Max Holloway, because that's what he wants. He wants a Max Holloway moment.
Oh yeah.
Like Murphy doesn't engage him in that. Murphy like teep kicks him and moves. So I said all this about Pico could be like that close to being undefeated. But this would be the first. I think this would be the first time he's going to be clearly outclassed pillar to post. I think Murphy wins. I hope I'm wrong. Nothing against Murphy. I really want Pico to be good, but Murphy wins the decision.
With that, we come to the main event of UFC 319, a middleweight title matchup between defending champ Dricus du Plessis and the challenger, undefeated Khamzat Chimaev. Du Plessis, the 31-year-old South African, is 23-2 overall. He is a perfect 9-0 since joining the UFC out of KSW. He won the title a year and a half ago in a split decision over Sean Strickland at UFC 297. He has defended it twice since then, first against Israel Adesanya about a year ago, and then in a rematch with Strickland this February at UFC 312. He is going for his 3rd successful title defense, looking to remain undefeated in the UFC. And standing across from him will be the Chechen Terror, Chimaev, 31-year-old from Chechnya, by way of Sweden, by way of United Arab Emirates now, I think. At any rate, he is a perfect 14-0 as a professional. He is a perfect 8-0 in the UFC. He, of course, was probably the biggest story outside of COVID of the first year of COVID, as he took advantage of the schedule, the UFC's need for short notice fighters, and the fact that they were posted up in a place that he could get a visa to come fight in easily, to rattle off 3 dominant wins in the space of about 6 weeks back in 2020. Since then, he has fought more sporadically, and some fighters have given him a bit more of a stiff challenge, but he's not really come close to losing a fight since, and he authored one of his most emphatic finishes at UFC 308 last October, where he ragdolled Robert Whittaker like we've really never seen done before, face cranking him in the first round, knocking the man's bottom teeth out of their sockets. Gruesome, definitive, and despite the mythical deserve question I asked a couple hours ago, made him an easy choice for the UFC to slot into this title fight. The line is wide enough that I'm not even going to try to quiz you over it, Keith. Khamzat Chimaev is minus 210. Dricus du Plessis plus 180. I'm flipping it to you. And still, and new, who gets it done? What does the fight look like?
Dude, I freaking love this fight. And it's funny, when you talk about the betting line, I think the betting setters, they finally actually come along on du Plessis, and that's why we think this line is big, because we both respect du Plessis so much. I think they do, because I think you book this fight.
If this was Chimaev versus Strickland, Chimaev would be like minus 450.
Yeah, exactly. And also, like, before the fights he even won recently, you know, if you did this after like the first Strickland fight, I think he's a huge favorite too. You know, so and I get it. Like, skill wise, if you go strictly by skills, like, Chimaev's someone that jumps off the page.
Yep.
You know, if you're having a like MMA, like, if it was like, you know, like those tough episodes, full circle back to tough, where they would have like the coach would look at guys like doing stuff in the gym, like, Chimaev's the first pick. But but that's not what du Plessis is. Du Plessis is not the watch him punch the bag, look how hard he hits, watch him roll for a minute, look how that's not the whole story. His thing is not about skills. It's all, he has all the attributes. And I think in MMA in 2025, that is a thing that we talk about all the time, but other people don't talk about enough. And I think people are starting to get to it, that it's not just the eyeball test. And I'm done doubting this guy. I mean, he turned me from a doubter where I was watching him come up the ranks. I'm like, man, he wins, but he never looks good. It's so clunky and so weird, and he keeps losing portions of the fight, and he comes back and wins, to finally, like, dude, this is what he does. He took me from a doubter to a fan that I'm like in awe of, that he can do this. You know, he fits our category guy because he's like this ultimate overachiever. He's a very intelligent fighter. He constantly puts him in the best chance of winning, not just winning the fight, but also winning rounds. He's so intelligent. On the feet, he's so unorthodox. He fights out of both stances, and that's more to get his opponents guessing. He has these deceivingly long arms that people have talked about, where his opponents think they're out of range, and he still he lunges at you with like a 4-punch combination. He misses 3 of them, and you think you're out of range, and the 4th one catches you. You know, he's got great output. He's going to be on the gas the entire 25 minutes. He fights a lot like Anthony Hernandez, not that he's insane Anthony Hernandez, but that's his point. Like, he wants to get you working, have you fight on your back foot, put you in positions you're not comfortable with, pressing forward, attacking combinations. He has plus power. He's got 9 TKOs, and he's not like a one punch guy, but it's just it's the cardio and the output and the strength. And I think I bet you his punches feel harder and harder to opponents as the fight goes on. Now, he does telegraph and load up so much. He'll occasionally throw out a spinning attack, but a lot of times him throwing out spinning attacks actually doesn't bother me, because I don't think he even plans on hitting it. I think he plans on, well, if someone spins and throws a spinning back fist in front of me, or a spinning wheel kick, I'm going to have to back away. I don't want to eat it. Well, that's what I needed you to do. I need you to back out from the center and back up towards the warning track. That's where I wanted to get you anyway. So that's why he did it. He has a very underrated kicking game. I love in the second fight, like, everyone talking about Strickland's performance and he didn't do anything and blah, blah, blah. But how about some of the skills that du Plessis added? Du Plessis added a high kick, which you really didn't see him doing. He kept high kicking Strickland in the second fight, which is something to cool. He does a lot of calf kicks. Now, his defense is bad for an elite fighter. He eats a lot of shots. When he is pressured back, he will back straight up. He pillars. He hates being the one being pressured. He wants a pressure. He's been rocked in so many fights. He has this. Now, he's so mentally tough to handle the bad moments. When he gets hurt, he never panics. And it's weird, says you hurt him. Now you're not controlled. You're coming in for a kill, and that actually sets him up to get a takedown, or sets him up to have a mad moment. So sometimes when he's hurt, it's not the worst thing for him. You know, he's so mentally tough. One thing he always does, when you hurt him, he never allows you to get momentum. He just keeps moving forward. You land a big shot, okay, he's back on the gas. He's a very underrated wrestler. He isn't like a technically sound wrestler, but he has this dog in him where he has a wrestler mentality. I've said it before, and sure, they're both champions at the same time, so it was kind of easy comparison. But he reminded me of Bilal Muhammad. The way Bilal Muhammad, nothing really jumps out at you. It's just a mentality. He gets takedowns when there's even the slightest opportunity to get one. He takes everyone down, especially when they're tired. He took Sean Strickland down 6 times. He's got good wrestlers down like Derek Brunson down. He got Robert Whitaker down. He's got. You don't have when he gets a takedown and you get that like second where the guy hits the ground and they take that breath to be like, oh, this is frustrating. He puts the gas on you. He's ground and pounding you and he's taking you back. And he's a very underrated grappler. He's got good back takes. He's a huge submission. He's got 11 subs on his record. And they've talked about that weird breather technique. Dude, forget that shit. He's going to go hard 25 minutes. Now, Chimaev's a big middleweight, which is crazy because somehow he used to fight at welterweight. He's very well-rounded. Even though we haven't seen too much of his striking lately, he just takes guys down, just beats the shit out of them on the ground. But when he was striking more, he was fearless. He just walked down his opponents, backing them up, explosive, fast hands, straight, hard shots down the pike, hits very hard. And he's an incredible wrestler. Now, it always gets brought up, I'm going to say it again, in a straight wrestling match, Bo Nickel would pin him in 30 seconds. But his MMA wrestling is awesome. He's got very fast entries. He's got those long arms that, he gets the legs so well. He's extremely strong. I mean, I always go back to like the Reese. Yeah, I go back to the Reese McKee fight. He picked him up like he was picking up like a gallon of milk off the ground or something. It was so easy, He threw Gilbert Burns. He chain wrestles together well. I go back to the Kevin Holland fight. We took him down, and then Holland was Granby rolling. He was rolling. He had the Granby counters. He was on top of it. Good top game. He's like Khabib with the Dagestani handcuff. He advanced the position so well on the ground. He did it against Kamaru Usman early in the fight. It was impressive because he's obviously a good grappler. Hard ground and pound. Really big submission game. He's got 6 subs. He caught Kevin Holland in the sick Darce choke that he adjusted 10 different times. Kept adjusting the hand, finding different angles. I mean, he crushed Robert Whitaker's teeth with a neck crank. Just shows you how insane. And we know how tough Robert Whitaker is. Mm-hmm. Now the big problem is his gas tank. That's the one thing that everyone has question about. He gassed bad against Kamaru Usman. And Usman was the guy who took the fight on short notice. His volume was terrible in rounds 2 and round 3. And what does Duplessis do best? He gasses guys out. So, God, I love this fight. I just love it because I feel like people who making predictions on this, and I've seen people making predictions, for a fight that I think is very close and hard to pick, people have
they're super dismissive of one fighter.
Exactly. It's like, and I get it. The way this fight plays out, it's kind of wicked easy to pick. I mean, it's lazy, but it's the thing is Chimaev early or Duplessis late, or late. Some people saying second round on is late, but Chimaev might be one of the most skilled fighters we've seen in the UFC in the history. But Duplessis might be one of the smartest, toughest. It kind of seems to be like this poster boy for what works in 2025.
Oh, dude. All right, that's the short clip from this episode right there.
Let me finish my prediction for it. But let me ask you this question. What if Chimaev doesn't gas? How about this? What if Duplessis doesn't lose the early rounds? What if he's way competitive in the first rounds? What if Chimaev is way more competitive in the late rounds? I hope both those happen because it would make it so exciting. Anyways.
And dude, we're a week out from Anthony Hernandez continuing to go, hey, just because I finish strong doesn't mean I start slow again. I know. What could be better? Yeah.
And obviously I think both are unlikely. And I'm so intrigued. I don't want to make a pick. And I know I've been going on and on and on. Sometimes making a pick makes me root for an outcome. And I would rather just sit back and just watch these guys perform and entertain and see them make their adjustments. And instead of being like when you watch a movie, you know, instead of rooting for the outcome, you just see like what's going to happen. Like, it's crazy. Yeah. I'm really on the fence. Obviously, each minute that goes by, I will favor Duplessis. Like, I think that's a lazy assessment, you know, or late Duplessis, but it's accurate, you know. Yeah. But he's going to have to deal with a freaking Wolverine in the first round. Oh, man. I've been preaching. I've been like one of the leading preachers saying pressure is the best thing to have in MMA, an insane gas tank. You know, if it's a sprinter versus a long distance runner. What's it going to be though? Like that's the thing about MMA. You don't know what the race is. And obviously if you give me, you know, some skinny guy with no muscle on him and you give me, I don't know, single long distance runner, Usain Bolt, and you say, hey, 100 meter, I'm going to take Usain Bolt. And you say 100 mile, I'm going to take the other guy, you know? Problem is, MMA, we don't know it. Does he get past the 100 meter sprint? I don't know. I think Chimaev's going to come out the gate like a wild man. A lot of people are going to say, you know, that's a bad strategy. I can't get past the skills of Chimaev. I am such a Duplessis fan. I almost want to be wrong. I just think Duplessis gets taken down. I think maybe Chimaev lands some punches early on, but I think he gets Duplessis down. I think he lands some hard shots. I think he locks in submission. I think he's so freaking strong. Duplessis can't resist. But you know what? Duplessis is so insane. He might go out cold. Give me Chimaev by first round submission. I know that sounds like that's a confident pick. Like, dude, you just picked first round submission. Dude, ask me tomorrow, and I might take Duplessis by ground and pound when Chimaev's completely exhausted in the third round. But as of right now, give me Chimaev by first round submission.
I love the breakdown. I love the pick. You sounded like me for a minute in that I had a feeling which way you were leaning, but you like dragged it out like as you like sorted through it in your own head for about 2 straight minutes there.
I did drag it out. That is true.
Which I mean, our listeners know that when I do that, they're like, oh yeah, like Duffy is talking himself into an upset pick, like on the spot. No need for that here. Spoilers out of the way. I've got Duplessis in this one. I was surprised that the line was this wide, but you know, I'm more aware of the lines than you are just because, you know, I put together the slides for the production, but not swayed one way or the other. It is the thing that's so beautiful about this main event is it is certainly the UFC main event this year, and maybe in the last 12-month period rolling, that has the greatest combination of high stakes, like it's a title fight between a multiple time defending champ, like doesn't get much higher than that. A combination of that with it's hard to tell who's going to win. Like anybody that has a super confident pick on this is kidding themselves. Like, just because the two true outcomes are obvious doesn't mean that it's obvious which one it's going to be. And I love what you dropped right there. Duplessis is a walking advertisement for what works in MMA in 2025. And here's the thing. I agree that he is one of the smartest fighters in the sport right now. Like, he has all the intangibles. And a lot of times especially when fighters themselves talk about intangibles, you just kind of roll your eyes like, oh yeah, you know, he's a real warrior. Oh, they're going to have to kill me to get me out of there. Like that stuff. Duplessis is the exception where not only does he have all that stuff, the fight IQ, the toughness, the gameness, the just knack for knowing when to step on the gas and when to take a breath, but it's what actually makes his game go. He is one of the smartest fighters in the sport. The one thing he may not be smart enough to do is not come out hot in round one. Like, Chimaev's best route to victory here. It's not his only route to victory, but his best route to victory is to either clock du Plessis with something big early, or at least just come out with like a head kick and a couple massive hooks to get his hands up, then shoot in on his hips, drop him down, and do the Whitaker thing to him. That's his best route to victory. And for what it's worth, he will have his chance to do that. Like a lot of people have put du Plessis on his heels in the first round. Like one of the wrongest takes I've ever had was after du Plessis' second UFC fight. I was like, dude, as much as I like Trevin Giles, people who lose the first round to Trevin Giles and have to come back and crack him in round 2 are probably not future contenders in this division. And oh boy, howdy was I wrong. Yeah, I'm making a pick here based on the intangibles, but you know what? Dricus du Plessis has won like 12 fights in a row based on intangibles. So it's not like I might be wrong, but I'm not stupid, at least not because of this. I think the first round plays out about like you just laid it out there, but du Plessis survives. And even if it's a 10-8 round, if du Plessis is still standing at the end of it, one eye jacked up, was fighting off a rear naked choke for the last 45 seconds of the round, clear 10-8. I'm still, if I'm a betting man, I'm hammering those live odds on du Plessis. Yeah. Give me Dricus du Plessis to do what Usman and even Burns kind of showed the route to do. Like Gilbert Burns, like Chimaev was so much bigger than Burns and just really manhandled him so badly in the first round. And even there, Burns came on strong late. Chimaev sort of started to flag. If you do that against Dricus du Plessis, oh, and by the way, he has 2 more full rounds to deal with you. It's not going to be Anthony Hernandez hell like we've seen him do recently, but it's going to be bad enough. Du Plessis is rolling downhill on Chimaev by the end of the second round. Give me Dricus du Plessis by third round submission. And still. And that is the Sherdog Radio Network preview for UFC 319, du Plessis versus Chimaev. I have been Ben. He has been Keith. If you're a veteran friend of the show, you know that bad or good, Keith and I are always super jazzed for these cards by the time we're done talking to each other about them for 3 hours. And this one didn't need that help. I need these fights to be now, and I got 6 more days to wait. FML. At any rate, if this is your first time watching, thank you. We hope you enjoyed it. We do our best to bring you a mix of in-depth analysis and occasional humorous or historic asides that we think is pretty unique in this space. Please do like, subscribe. Neither of those things cost you a thing. They make our bosses happy. They allow us to keep bringing you this content free of charge. Please do drop us a comment on the YouTube page. Keith and I both man the comment section. We would love to hear your takes on these fights. We each picked a bunch of upsets, and we each picked some different upsets. There are 13 fights on this card, and almost half of them have at least one of us picking an upset. So If you think we're out of our minds, let us know. If you think we left some money on the table, let us know. Because if you're right and we're wrong, we will give you your flowers. We're happy to acknowledge. You just need to drop by on the recap and collect them. We are live on the Sherdog YouTube page right after the main event. We'll talk about all 13 of these fights from the headliner on down to the tough finale opener, talking about what was good, what was bad, what was surprising, what was controversial. There's always something. Please God, it's not in the main event. And we'll be talking with you. The live chat is open that whole time, so we take your questions, your comments, and your hot takes in real time. We have a growing community of friends that hang out with us after the fights. We'd love for you to be part of it. Keith normally runs those recaps, but Keith is going to be traveling because Keith is getting on a plane in about 12 hours here to fly down to my part of the world. So we'll have some pictures together by the next time you see us.
No, not 12 hours. I wish 12 hours in like 8 hours or 7 hours.
Oh, good grief. I better let this man go.
It's okay.
But I'll be running the recap with a substitute co-host of some kind. And yeah, we'd love to see you. Between now and then.
But you buried the lead, David.
Oh,
you keep talking about the big showdown this week. The showdown is not Duplessis versus Chimaev. The showdown is after 5 years of doing this show, Shillan and Duffy will finally have square off. We're finally going to meet each other in real life this week. So I'm very excited about that.
And really, I don't want to fight Keith. I just want the tail of the tape. I'm not sure which one of us is taller. So we're gonna.
No, I think you're taller and thinner. And thinner. You're down on weight, man. I should have lost some weight before this.
You can still take me down easy. Anyway, thank you once again for listening. Enjoy the rest of this week, and by all means, enjoy these fights. If you don't enjoy these fights, I don't know.
Yeah, right. This might be